Chapter 221, Small World Nifflers are small, black-furred magical creatures that look a bit like echidnas. They're gentle and loyal to their master, but they have an almost pathological attraction to anything that sparkles, especially precious metals and gemstones. The moment Banner opened the case, the Nifflers, following the scent, slipped out that night. That, unfortunately, meant Kamartaj's sorcerer's wallets were no longer safe. No wonder, Leon observed. Next time, keep the Nifflers in a separate enclosure. But if they steal something, can't you just catch them again? Wong, you're not stingy, are you? Tony teased. Wong thumped his chest and stamped his foot. I'm not stingy, but if you catch them once, there's a second time. These little rascals get smarter after a few runs. The two that raided us yesterday still haven't been caught. I haven't seen my piggy bank in days. It turned out they hadn't just stolen Wong's coins, they'd taken the whole box. It was clearly a coordinated effort. What the? Tony suddenly shouted. Everyone turned to see a small, dark creature clambering out from Tony's collar. It had a flat arc reactor clasped in its mouth, then pushed off Tony's shoulder and darted away. It stole my reactor. Tony patted his chest. The familiar weight was gone. That's practically a robbery. Proper theft, then, Leon replied dryly. Can't you give me a hand? Tony rolled his eyes, drew a wand from his pocket, and said, Reactor, Axio! The reactor flew straight back into Tony's hand under the charm. The Niffler, unwilling to relinquish it, flapped its stubby legs and hovered in the air, tugging at the piece with all its might. Good Axio charm, Leon said. Hogwarts 6th year level, at least. Thanks for the compliment. Tony wordlessly pried the reactor from the Niffler's mouth, gave it a disgusted shake, and slipped it into his pocket. Then, inexplicably, he rubbed the creature's round belly. This little guy is annoying, but it's oddly soft. Thank you, Tony. Now there's only one left to find. Wong reached eagerly for the last Niffler. You look nervous. Are you afraid, Isle? Tony put his wand away. Complaining about trouble while actually liking it. You're reminding me of Severus. Please don't compare me to that bat professor, Wong protested, and stuffed the Niffler into Banner's briefcase. Seems he left quite an impression on you all, Leon said, then used telekinesis to pull the other Niffler out from a corner. Here, that should be the last one. He sent it into the briefcase and turned to Mordo. Honestly, a month apart and 1 minute back, and I already see how chaotic Kamartaj is. Leon clapped his hands. Don't just stand around. Let's get started. Take me to the place you prepared. We'll begin making the small world. Wong and Mordo had concluded that a magic academy and a magical animal farm needed their own independent space. The undetectable extension charm was temporary and unsuitable, and Leon's existing world rings, no matter how small, were astronomically huge. Using one would have been a waste. Fortunately, Leon was currently at the World Master level, which allowed him to make small worlds similar to world rings. What defined a Starry Sky World Master was the ability to tap into the universe's origin to draw energy and combine it with one's world power to forge a small world. That ability was unique to the World Master stage. Immortals, however powerful, could not do it. At that stage, the inner world had already transformed into an outer divine kingdom, and world power had become divine power, losing the capacity to create small worlds. One would have to advance through the Law Venerable and Law Master realms and become a true god. Only when the divine kingdom itself became a miniature universe could one again create small worlds by their own power. Leon, in the Marvel universe, had an advantage. Though there was no formal origin here, the Infinity Stones functioned as representations of the universe's origin. He only needed to channel the Space Stone's energy and blend it with his world power to craft a small world. Starting now, this way. Wong brightened when they said they were ready and dragged Mordo to lead the way. They arrived at the deepest part of the library. The chamber was circular, cave-like. The Eye of Agamotto, a container for the Time Stone, had once been placed there. 4 doorways opened from the room, 3 fixed portals leading to the great sanctuaries, and 1 ordinary arch to the rest of the library. In the spot where the eye had stood, Wong and Mordo had built a small wooden house, about 3 meters high and 2 meters wide and long, in a Kamartaj style. The house was fashioned from magical woods and precious enchanted metals, materials chosen specifically to stabilize and contain a small world. Yes, build it right here, Wong and Mordo agreed. Putting it by the fixed portals is convenient, but leaving the door opening into a modest cave keeps it discreet. It does have the flavor of a hidden sect, Leon admitted. He opened the house's door and found not a simple room, but a tightly packed wall of magical metal, like a door embedded in a mass of enchanted ore. He smiled. Good. These materials will hold. Wong looked nervous. Are you starting now? Do we need to step back? No need to step back, but it will take some time. Wait outside. Leon placed his palm against the metal door and began to channel the Space Stone's energy he had within him, weaving it together with his world power. The two forces braided and flowed into the wooden house like a seed taking root, and slowly a miniature world began to bloom inside the containment. 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000. In only a few breaths, the small world reached a diameter of 100,000 meters and kept expanding. Eventually, it grew into a spherical world more than 1,000 kilometers across. Leon cut off the output then. That was the limit the materials could bear. Inside the new world, he used world power to gather matter, shaping continents, carving mountains and rivers, and summoned a light source by weaving the law of light. Half a day of focused work later, he let his right hand fall from the door's surface. Is it done already? Wong asked from beside him before Leon could turn. They were not alone. Wong, Tony, Mordo, and Banner had all stayed nearby, hovering with eager anticipation for him to finish creating the small world. There are still some details to add. Leon's hand rested on the doorknob. But if you want to come in and take a look, you can follow me now. Tony stepped forward. Just looking around isn't enough. We can also offer suggestions for transforming your small world. He spread his hands. The best idea man in the world is right here. I'm the founder of Stark Electronics. Everyone depends on the devices I invented. Most of those ideas were told to you by me, thank you. Leon had no answer for Tony's showmanship. I can provide ideas too. Banner raised his hand and added quietly, magical creatures often need specialized habitats. Wong and Mordo didn't need to be prompted. They moved to stand beside Leon like massive, forbidding sentries. It seems you're all eager, Leon said, turning the knob. Ready to be the first guests in this small world after its birth? No one answered at first. The group held their breath as Leon opened the door. A flood of dazzling light washed over them. Beyond the threshold, there was no longer a layer of magical metal, but an entire world, yellow earth stretching outward, distant ranges of mountains, and a vast, seemingly endless sky. Tony was the first to step across. This is a real world. Gravity feels close to Earth's, but it's so barren, no vegetation at all. Looks like a plucked chicken. What chicken? Leon walked past him. Can't you just admire how vast it is? It's truly enormous, unbelievable, a small world attached to the solar system, but not part of physical reality. It's like stepping into another dimension. Banner followed, marveling as he set foot on the yellow soil and looked up at the sky. There's an atmosphere. Are we on a planet? No, Leon said. It's a continent about 500 kilometers across, formed by condensed cosmic dust. Betty, holding Banner's hand, looked up. Does the light here come from the sun? I don't see the sun in the sky. For now, the light comes from the small world's own laws, Leon explained. But in the future, this small world can be linked to reality. When Kamar Taj has its sunrise, this place could receive sunlight in sync, and at night, you could see moonlight. A wonderland, like Alice in Wonderland, a small voice inside Betty squealed. It's more like the peach blossom spring, Wong insisted. It's all the same, Leon said lightly. He waited until Mordo had stepped in as well, then closed the door. The wooden door stood absurdly in the middle of the flat plain, incongruous against the endless landscape. We should build something here later. Just a lone door looks strange. Mordo nodded. And the door should be larger. It's too narrow for only one person to enter. No need, Leon said, shaking his head. You won't need to use this door for regular arrivals. We can construct several fixed portals inside the small world that link to the outside, like the ones in the depths of the library. He waved his hand. Dirt and rock rose in the distance, gathering into a low hill that enveloped the wooden door. It looked as if someone had embedded the doorway at the base of a 7 or 8 meter mound. This will do. I'll start transforming the world now. Leon began to channel the small world's power, inviting them to watch or offer suggestions. He widened riverbeds, tapped water sources buried in the crust, and adjusted environmental catalysts, accelerating the world along an evolutionary arc. In minutes, a full ecosystem sprang up across the continent. Microorganisms, plants, and animals emerged in layered habitats. The barren yellow plain was quickly becoming an oasis. Forests rose at visible speed, mountains turned green, distant basins filled and became vast lakes or seas. Tony swore he could hear the roar of waves forming far off. Then Leon stopped. Done. Now this small world can support life reproducing naturally. He clapped as if dusting off his hands. Tony and the others stood stunned for a long moment. Tony finally broke the silence. Leon, if you told me you could become a god tomorrow, I might believe you. Becoming a god is still a long way off, Leon replied with a wry sigh. I can barely create a small world and conjure low-level life for the moment. They all stared at him, incredulous and slightly exasperated at his understatement. Let's discuss the plans for later. Mordo, who had long grown used to being continually outpaced by Leon's sudden leaps, spoke up. He'd been shocked before, especially the month Leon first learned magic and threw new spells at him daily, but now he kept his face impassive. And then, the plan is to build a magic academy and raise magical creatures. Leon projected a live map into the air with a flick of magic. Here's the current map. The center is the 500-kilometer continent. The dark areas are cosmic void. Thoughts on how to shape it? He asked. Tony tapped his chin. Since magical animals will live here, abundant, vast water sources are a must. Banner added, some magical creatures will have specific environmental needs. We should divide the continent into distinct ecological zones. For the academy, it should be mysterious and jaw-dropping at first sight, Wong said. Mordo countered, I prefer something simple, like camouflage. No problem. We can satisfy all of that. Leon snapped his fingers. The world trembled. Mountains collapsed and were pushed aside. Plains cracked open as magma surged from the crust. Farther off, a furious torrent burst from beneath the surface, as if an ocean of undercurrents had been unleashed, smashing against newly formed shores and raising monstrous waves. It was a scene of simultaneous destruction and creation that left everyone breathless. Mordo's face stayed impassive, but his eyes were wide as if he'd swallowed a bowling ball. More than half an hour later, Leon finally ceased his shaping. Chapter 223, New Plan. He condensed another map out of pure energy. This time, the continent on the map showed far more detail. Leon pointed to it and explained, at the center of the continent is a vast lake 200 kilometers across. 4 rivers flow out from it, dividing the land into 4 triangular regions. The northern region is mostly plains and glacial terrain. The south is magma and wasteland. The west is plateaus and mountains. The east is basins and forests. All the major topographies of the world are represented here, so every magical creature should be able to find a suitable habitat, he said. Leon tapped the lake in the center. I plan to build the Magic Academy above the lake, as a floating island. What do you think? They all fell silent for a moment. Banner shook his head with a grin. Sounds perfect. Nothing more to add. Then let's go to the center of the lake first. Leon used telekinesis to lift them and flew toward the continent's heart. The lake that appeared soon before them was more like an inland sea. Its shores had tides, and, in general, it lay calm. Closer to the center, however, the winds and waves grew stronger. Pockets of thunderstorms and waterspouts churned here and there, natural reactions to the world's power. When the small world eventually connected to Earth, external changes in light, gravity, and temperature would naturally trigger similar effects. They hovered directly over the lake's center, above the peak of a huge submerged mountain. Leon flattened the mountain's summit, then inverted it into the air over the water. From below, it looked like a massive island floating above the lake. He then began to layer solidification spells on it without restraint. Vishanti protective texts, rune sigils, solidification arrays, the sorcerer's dissolution charm. Circles of light swept across the island's surface one after another. When Leon stopped, the floating island already had defenses capable of withstanding most surface-level attacks. That should do it, he said, satisfied as he surveyed the island. Simple, but impressive at first glance. Absolutely perfect. If there's a chance later, we should invite Odin and the others, he added casually. Let them see this new secret realm of Kamartaj. Wong and Mordo's faces lit up at the thought. They pictured Odin arriving, looking around, and being stunned. The image made them quietly delighted. This place will be the site of the Magic Academy, Leon declared. He led the group down onto the island. From here on, how the academy is built and how magical creatures are raised will be up to you. I'll follow your proposals. Wong straightened and patted his chest. Kamartaj has no shortage of talent, Leon. Don't worry, I guarantee the new academy will rival Asgard's gilded halls. Mordo and Banner turned their attentions back to the surroundings and nodded in agreement. We'll handle the breeding of magical creatures, they promised. Speaking of breeding, Tony interrupted, I've been thinking, why don't I give this a try? Are you serious? Leon teased. Tony, don't say you'll help only to sneak off and build an armor factory. Come on, would I do that? Tony feigned offense and clutched his chest. Besides, can an armor factory not bring some beauty into the world? You're really planning to build one? Leon said, already suspecting the answer. Tony shrugged. This small world is huge. Kamartaj has only a few people and not many magical creatures. It'd be a waste not to make use of it. Don't build it here. This is Kamartaj, a sacred place of magic, Leon replied. If you really want one, I can make you a small world ring later. Really? Tony brightened. What about Pepper? Pepper gets one too. Tony threw his arms wide. Oh, Leon, you're in a generous mood. Let your big brother give you a hug. Leon dodged the exaggerated embrace. Do you have to be so materialistic? He said. Hey, make them the same style. Pepper would like that. Tony draped an arm around Leon's shoulder and winked. A heart shape? Do you want it to be stuck in a jewelry box forever? Make it an Iron Man mask, Leon shot back. Pepper won't like an Iron Man mask, Tony said. Then inlay a diamond made of vibranium, and the world it contains could be bigger, right? Vibranium? That could work. They quickly reached an agreement. When Leon turned back, he found the others looking at him with longing expressions. Tony's proposal had sparked a line of requests. What are those looks for? Especially you, Banner. Don't you already have a suitcase with the undetectable extension charm? Why a world ring? Banner smiled shyly. Mostly, I want to give the magical creatures a stable home. That sounded genuine and warm. Leon couldn't help but laugh. If you want a world ring, earn it. If we win the challenge against Asgard, I'll make them for you. For Leon, making a few small world rings would take only minutes. For Mordo and the others, however, the promise was a powerful pre-battle incentive. They all moved with renewed energy, as if injected with adrenaline, eager to finish their current tasks so they could devote themselves to cultivation. Even Betty pulled Banner aside to ask if it was too late for her to begin training in magic. Leon had to cut them off and issue one order. They must complete the Academy's construction and the breeding program, both in quality and quantity, before entering the challenge. When they dispersed again, Banner and Mordo took Tony and rode enchanted brooms to survey the small world and begin settling the magical creatures. Wong opened a portal to Kamartaj and brought back a team of mages experienced in civil engineering. Work exploded into motion. Leon stood at the edge of the floating island, watching the progress, then turned inward to his own cultivation. Realm Lord Level 5, with 40% comprehension of the Law of Light, now was the time to obtain the remaining clones. According to our plan, choosing the Blacklight virus for the second clone is relatively straightforward, he told himself. He sat, closed his eyes, and activated his traverse ability again after 2 months of preparation. Keywords: Blacklight virus, Blackwatch, Manhattan, Alexher. Anchoring world, confirming traverse. After paying a negligible energy fee for the traversal, Leon vanished instantly. A few seconds later, he reappeared in the same spot. The Blacklight virus was not really a virus. It was an ancient life form that had existed on Earth before life as we know it emerged. Its original function was to help hosts activate dormant genes and thus drive biological evolution. Early researchers called it the symbol of evolution, a concretization of the idea itself. Only later, when an experimental variant was produced by Blackwatch, the U.S. military-backed organization, did it earn the name Blacklight virus. Unlike the benign prototype, the variant was contagious. an infected person became a monster with a probability approaching 100%. Even Alex Mercer, the story's protagonist, failed to fuse cleanly with the pathogen. He had been dead before the merger even began. Alex had once been a Black Watch researcher. Because of his upbringing, he had always been somewhat antisocial. When he discovered the organization's experiments, he tried to escape with a sample of the original virus solution. Black Watch agents caught him in a subway and gunned him down. Angry and dying, he smashed the vial, intending to take Manhattan down with him and expose the truth to the world. The virus did not simply spread across Manhattan. It also consumed the dead Alex, inheriting fragments of his memories and, in a way, becoming him. The newborn Alex awoke in a Black Watch lab, escaped, and evolved as he moved. Ironic as it sounded, this Alex, formed of virus and memory, proved more humane than his human predecessor. In the end, he piloted a fighter, risking his life to carry a nuclear bomb out over the sea and save New York. That was the Alex Ling met when he traveled to the world called Prototype. Liang arrived in a dark alley. Alex Mercer stood nearby, alert, bewildered, leather jacket and hoodie soaked in grime. Outside, heavy footsteps and the churning of helicopter rotors announced the Black Watch pursuing him. When soldiers stormed the alley and searchlights from the helicopter painted it as bright as day, muzzle flashes and twin crimson beams sliced through the air. So I've landed at the beginning of the story, Liang thought. Amid falling body parts and the helicopter's fiery explosion, Liang turned to the worn, wary man behind him. "Alex Mercer," he said, "you look like you could use some help. I could use a small favor in return." Then they ran. From the west side of Manhattan to the east, Liang and Alex fought their way through Black Watch bases, through reinforcements, through hordes of infected. Whenever U.S. reinforcements arrived, they killed them. Whenever other virus-formed bodies appeared, they were dealt with without mercy. Within half a day, the two of them had wiped out Black Watch's American bases. Alex, by devouring and evolving repeatedly, recovered more of his memories and understood the truth. He had been dead for a long time and was now a viral aggregation carrying Alex Mercer's memories. Above them, a U.S. nuclear warhead was already on its way. At that moment, Liang clapped Alex on the shoulder. "Remember, Alex, great power brings great responsibility," he said. Casually, he produced the original virus solution from Alex and hurled it into the incoming warhead. Explosions tore the sky apart. Alex's desperate, sorrowful shouts echoed as the blast consumed the aircraft. Then, Liang chose to return to his own world. He left the wreckage behind and slipped away to marvel. On his floating island afterward, Liang stared at the syringe of blacklight virus solution in his hand. "I can't imagine how sad Alex must be," he admitted. "After all, I was the first to show him kindness after he was born. But if Spider-Man could grow after losing Uncle Ben, Alex can survive too. Let's begin raising the second clone." He placed the solution into his inner world, then rose to help the Kamar-Taj mages integrate building materials into a defensive array. Inside his inner world, Liang condensed a small blood sea clone and ordered it to take control of the viral solution. The tiny clone lifted the vial into the air. Clone secret art, activate. The inner world trembled as vast power converged on the original virus solution. The solution dissolved, reverting to its most primitive genetic information. Up to that point, the procedure mirrored the nurturing of any other blood sea clone. Then, as if a program had hit an error, everything froze. The viral genetics and the surrounding world power halted in mid-flow, as if someone had pressed pause. Liang frowned. He considered the possibility that the blacklight virus's constitution was incompatible with his usual cloning method, much like Tony couldn't cultivate the starry sky system because he lacked the proper genetic level. If the process failed, he planned to use other genetic materials he had brought from the starry sky world. Before he could act, something else entered the inner world. Pure energy, unmistakably the cosmic energy of the starry sky world, had been left behind in his original nucleus by the source will. It flowed out, piercing the sea of world power and covering the genetic information. After a few breaths, the energy faded, and the clone's secret art resumed. World power poured into the genetic core, forming a black-red shell around it. The inner world systems returned to cultivation time, 10 hours. Liang watched the forming egg and realized that the source Will had anticipated the possibility that he would nurture clones from other worlds. It had left energy in his original nucleus to facilitate the transformation. This source Will really is thoughtful, he murmured. It even prepared for cross-world clones. He reintegrated the Blood Sea clone he had been using back into the Blood Sea and waited. 10 hours later, inside the inner world, the Blood Sea stilled. The black-red shell cracked with a series of delicate, muffled fissures, far quieter than the birthing of a Blood Sea clone. In minutes, the shell shattered, and a black liquid form shimmering with red light burst forth. Liang's consciousness split again. Where before he had two perspectives, now there were three. The new perspective was empty of human senses. I'm the form of the original virus solution now, he understood. Everything is pitch black. I can't speak. I can't hear. I haven't even reached the planetary level yet. I'm far below my main body's cultivation. That mattered less than it would have. He could always infuse power with the space stone. He began to channel energy into the newborn entity. The blacklight clone's aura rose. Planet, star, universe. The climb only slowed at the Domain Lord stage. Liang kept feeding it to raise its baseline cultivation, then used telekinesis to set the clone on the ground and began to probe its innate abilities. Devour evolution by absorbing the genetic material of other organisms, filter, assimilate, and optimize stronger genes to suit one's survival. Assimilation, absorption. Decompose and absorb organisms, organic matter, and inorganic matter as nutrients and building materials, recording their information as part of oneself. Chapter 2. Memory Hive. By devouring the bodies of living beings, one can obtain their memories and store them in the hive network for viewing at any time. If the devoured subject is alive, complete memories will be obtained. If the devoured subject is dead, only residual memories remain. The longer the time since death, the fewer memories recovered. Mimicry. After a living being or object is assimilated and absorbed, their corresponding data will be recorded in the hive network. This data can then be used to mimic the appearance and characteristics of that being or object. Assimilation infection. After the blacklight virus invades a living being, it can rapidly assimilate the target cells, forcibly activate non-coding regions, and aggressively initiate large-scale replication and assimilation. If the infected target is inorganic, it can be assimilated and converted into a blacklight virus stock solution. There were 5 innate abilities in total. Heguang Liang's eyes glittered as he read. Judging by those abilities alone, the blacklight virus lived up to its reputation as the embodiment of evolutionary concepts in the prototype world. This thing was a behemoth on the path of biological evolution. Devouring, absorbing, assimilating. Organic or inorganic, anything that counted as matter could be turned into nourishment. Against living beings, it was even more domineering. Beyond devouring and assimilation, it was essentially a ready-made ladder to ultimate power with virtually no limits. Even its infection ability was absurd. What virus could infect inorganic matter? And for ordinary viruses infecting life, they had to bind to cell receptors, enter, shed coats, and inject their genetic material for replication. The blacklight virus bypassed all that and began assimilating cells directly, turning them into itself. This wasn't a virus. It was practically a nano facehugger. Fortunately, Heguang Liang only needed to raise a blacklight virus clone. Once the clone existed, it would be part of him, controlled by his will. He could decide whether or not to activate those innate abilities. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare bring the blacklight virus to Marvel for research. Don't let the virus's fragile-looking host body fool you. A single flame or a bottle of liquid nitrogen could kill it, but if it devoured even a little living matter, its vitality would grow like a fire in the wind. Alex, the protagonist in the recorded account, went from being on the brink of death from bullets to shrugging off a nuclear blast in just 21 days. That rate of evolution, given a world with a slightly higher ceiling than prototype, it could surpass a Kryptonian. Heguang Liang pulsed with excitement, his fluid-shaped body bobbing. Ugh, why do I feel like a slime right now? He grumbled. He forced his excitement down and continued scanning the blacklight clone's information. Genetic level, only 1x? Looks like I'll have to keep devouring to evolve. And it can reproduce now? The reproduction method is to cut off a portion of the virus's consciousness, letting it develop an independent mind. Asexual reproduction. I can't play loose with that. One mistake and I might spawn something stronger than the god of symbiotes. And absolutely no letting Tony get near the blacklight virus, or something's going to go wrong eventually. Heguang Liang muttered to himself. For now, let's test the blacklight virus's devouring and evolution ability. Outside the inner world, while enchanting building materials, Heguang Liang paused. He drew a drop of blood from his palm and sent it into his inner world. Under his control, the genetic material in that drop of blood bypassed his genetic self-locking and flew intact toward the blacklight clone. To the clone's perception, the blood shimmered with spatial distortion and hovered beside it. The clone rolled forward and enveloped the drop. Devour! Begin devouring! The liquid making up Heguang Liang's body boiled instantly. The virus surged into the host's blood, frantically trying to assimilate the genetic material and make it its own. But as it invaded the blood, Heguang Liang realized something was wrong. Wait, this is too strong. Too strong. I can't eat it. I can't eat it. In seconds, his body ballooned. The black liquid sphere swelled from mere tens of centimeters to a towering mass over 10 meters tall. It's over. I ate too much. I can't digest it. It's finished. Heguang Liang shook his non-existent head. On the floating island, his original body spread its hands and wore a helpless expression. Then, the clone exploded, utterly and thoroughly. Every virus particle that had absorbed the blood's genetic material detonated. Heguang Liang's 3 perspectives briefly dropped to 2. Well, my first blood after coming to Marvel was given by myself, he said, shaking his head. He hadn't expected that even a blacklight clone, already fueled to domain lord level, could be overloaded by the host's genetic information. Looks like I'll have to start from the most basic organisms. Inside the world, a surge of world energy coalesced, and within seconds, the blacklight clone fully regenerated. Heguang Liang regained his 3 perspectives. This was one of the greatest advantages of the clone ability. As long as either the clone or the original survived, even if the other had been annihilated, they could use energy and matter to reshape and revive themselves, excluding soul death. That was why he dared to experiment so boldly with the blacklight clone. If I can't devour the host's genes, the Blood Sea clone won't work either, he thought. Let's start with the creatures I brought back from the starry sky world. Heguang Liang channeled world energy and ordered the creatures in the inner world to line up before the blacklight clone. Mutated 2-headed wolves and giant mammoths thundered across the ground. Enormous octopuses and fat lobsters swam in the seas. The monsters ran and leapt, legs blurring into afterimages, or launched themselves out of the water and slid forward on their bellies. Within minutes, hundreds of mutated beasts formed a long queue before him. They're all 1A genetic level, so they probably won't make the clone evolve much, but it's better than nothing, he muttered. His body writhed, and a blood-red tentacle shot out, plunging into the 2-headed wolf at the front. In under a second, the wolf dissolved into a mass of flesh and was absorbed into the blacklight virus. There isn't much change in the genes, Heguang Liang noted, but a memory has been added to the memory hive, and the mimicry ability can now be used. He activated mimicry. Black-red veins rolled over the surface of the liquid sphere. His mass elongated and rapidly solidified, transforming into the shape of a 2-headed wolf. Now I have eyes. Heguang Liang looked left and right. His vision was no longer total darkness. He glanced at the long line of monsters again. Continue. Thousands of tentacles erupted from his body, each plunging into the waiting creatures and devouring them in moments. Chapter 226. Inhumans. A gurgling noise echoed through the boundless world. Hundreds of strands of monster genetic information mixed with the matter and energy transformed from their flesh and blood, flowing along thousands of tendrils into Heguang Liang's body. It was like a machine grinding watermelons and oranges to extract the finest nutrients. Liang watched everything unfolding inside him. The massive influx of foreign genetic data was automatically decomposed and optimized by the blacklight virus, then integrated into his own genome. He could see gene fragments cut into segments and reassembled onto his DNA. From this meticulous personal process, he instinctively understood the new abilities he had acquired. The Blacklight clone's analysis let him comprehend all the monster's genetic information at an extraordinary speed. A torrent of knowledge surged through his consciousness. Liang's Blood Sea clone began to practice immediately. He activated his innate ability, creation. The vast pool of genetic primal energy in the Blood Sea converged. Blood-red mist rose and drifted above the sea like a thin veil, punctuated by faint sounds of exploding bodies and beast roars. Time passed imperceptibly, 3 years in the inner world. Finally, the mist dispersed, revealing hundreds of thumb-sized embryos. Under the influence of creation, the embryos rapidly grew into giant monsters in a matter of breaths: two-headed wolves, giant octopuses. The creatures the Blacklight clone had devoured were now recreated by the Blood Sea clone. Liang used telekinesis to place hundreds of creatures on shore and in the ocean. Once in a free environment, they ran and swam with the vigor of true life, no different from their originals in the starry sky world. It worked. The two-headed giant wolf the Blacklight clone had mimicked stood on the Blood Sea shore. Liang surveyed the scene. I wasn't wrong. The Blacklight clone's greatest use to me is helping me understand the genetic essence of all life. In the starry sky world system, the gene ceiling is extremely high. When my main body reaches 10,000 or even 100,000 times the genes, I might become a silver or even a supreme Superman. If I keep using the Blacklight clone and Blood Sea clone to devour and study genes, I can go very far in genetic research. Fine black-red veins rippled over Liang's body, transforming into slender tendrils that wrapped him and then sank beneath his skin. When they retracted, he had taken the form of a striking Siberian husky, black and white fur, bright azure eyes that glinted with intelligence. Not bad. The Blacklight clone tilted its head. Next, I'll find some excellent genes to absorb. On the floating island, another day passed. Liang continued enchanting building materials as usual, while a group of Kamar Taj mages and Wong worked nearby. After gaining access to the island's defensive magic array, they'd used magic to lay foundations and cut stone, bustling with activity. Wong wiped sweat from his forehead and took a break when he suddenly saw something flash from Liang's body and vanish through a portal, leaving the small world. Huh? He snapped to attention. Did something black and white run out just now? You're seeing things, Wong. Liang glanced at him. No, I really saw it. Black and white, like a flash of light. Wong peered at Liang's face. You wouldn't be stealing pandas, would you? Stealing pandas? What are you talking about? You know, sneaking protected pandas in, releasing them into the forest to increase biodiversity in the small world. How could that be, Wong? You've been imagining illegal schemes again. Go back to work. You don't overthink things when you're working. Wong grumbled, but returned to building the mage tower, still bewildered. Outside, the Siberian husky-shaped Liang stood on Wong's desk in the library. This Wong isn't concentrating, he muttered, then spread his mental power, locked onto a target, and vanished. Minutes later, on the far side of the moon, in the Inhuman city, Haiguang Liang walked lightly through a technologically advanced metropolis. He strode past Inhumans, almost transparent threads, extending from his body to make tiny incisions in their skin and draw a drop of blood. For the Blacklight virus, a single drop of blood or a piece of scalp was enough to obtain genetic information. Eating someone whole was useful only for gaining energy, nutrients, or memories, but Liang's Blacklight clone used the Space Stone for energy, so it only needed the genes. There was no need for gruesome consumption like Alex's tactics. Liang toured the city as if sightseeing, admiring the exotic architecture while quietly absorbing the blood of those around him. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. He looked up to see a giant Sharpei, over a meter tall, its head nearly a meter across, lowering its massive face to study him. He recognized the dog, Lockjaw, the Inhuman's powerful canine, capable of spatial teleportation and telepathy. Why are you staring at me? Liang asked. Lockjaw's eyes widened. It couldn't comprehend how this handsome Siberian husky could speak. It tried to communicate telepathically, confused and curious. Liang jumped and struck, a single powerful blow that sent the Sharpei crashing to the ground. I'm here to eat people. That was the last thing Lockjaw heard before blacking out. When Lockjaw finally awoke, Its mind buzzed with questions. It discovered the entire Inhuman royal family knocked out, and the story of what happened spread quickly. That Siberian husky was just tilting its head and staring at me, Maximus said. I mentioned moving to Earth, saying that without our class divisions we'd be better off, and then the husky jumped up and knocked me out. I was knocked out too, Medusa added. When the husky knocked out Mark, it said, "You want to go to Earth too?" and then knocked me out as well. Black Bolt made gestures. Other guards chimed in, each retelling being felled by the same uncanny dog. Lockjaw joined the account, bewildered. They concluded it was a super Siberian husky from Earth, capable of taking on the Inhumans alone. Black Bolt suspected it was the dog of a Superman on Earth. There was a Superman dog called Lil, Crypto in the comics, and conveyed that theory through sign language. His serious demeanor made the warning convincing. After hearing it, Maximus and the others recalled the Skrull's fate a few days earlier and quietly abandoned any talk of relocating their people to Earth. Chapter 227, Eternals. After Liang Heguang collected all the Inhumans' genes, he didn't devour and fuse them right away. Instead, he returned to Earth. He flew above the clouds, accelerating the whole time using the law of light. The Blacklight clone had no biofield. If he relied only on physical force to fly, the disturbance would have been so great it might have affected the atmosphere. Those Inhumans were more like a TV series version of the originals, Liang thought as he flew. By the way, when did they join the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Their powers were useful, though. Sonic attacks, spatial jumps. Next, he would find the Eternals. Liang descended from the clouds toward the nearest gathering of Eternals. From above, he saw them meeting in a stone house in Africa. Perfect, he thought. He could take them out all at once. The Eternals were creations of the Celestials, beings who could manipulate cosmic energy and enjoyed extraordinarily long lifespans. Each Eternal had its own unique abilities. In 5000 BC, 10 Eternals, following the command of Arishem the Judge, came to Earth to eliminate the Deviants, a race also created by the Celestials that had gone out of control. The 10 Eternals fought the Deviants on Earth for millennia, believing this was their entire mission. In truth, however, aside from Captain Ajak, the rest of the group did not know their true purpose: to ensure the successful birth of the celestial embryo incubating deep inside the planet by protecting humanity's continued reproduction. The Celestials, with the power to create galaxies and life, scattered seeds across the universe so new Celestials could gestate within planets. When a world developed enough intelligent life, the seed could siphon sufficient energy and hatch. The planet that nurtured the shell would be the one to break open. The 10 Eternals' real job was to make sure the Celestial within Earth could be born. Most of them, however, loved Earth and its people. 2,000 years ago, their internal arguments over interfering with human development split them apart. For the last 2,000 years, they had lived scattered across the world, until now, when they'd reunited in this stone house and held a meeting that had run several days, centering on Superman and the Skrull. "Do you remember the space stone fluctuation we sensed in New York a few months ago?" Captain Ajak asked. "Of course. At that time, Water Sprite and I even infiltrated Avengers Tower to investigate," said Cersei, her features East Asian. "But that energy flared again in Kamartaj later, so it's very likely Superman has learned to use the stone." "That kind of energy is not something an ordinary person can master," Ajak said. "I investigated him. He was originally an ordinary human, then suddenly became Superman, and his abilities are very similar to ours." "Ajak, are you saying he might also be an Eternal?" someone asked. "I don't rule it out," Ajak replied gravely. "There are many Eternals across the universe. He could be one who arrived here by accident. What do you want to do? Go introduce yourselves?" Water Sprite asked naively. "No, I want to remind everyone that Earth is becoming restless and our mission may be at risk. We must stay vigilant and not disperse again," Ajak said. "Mission? Wasn't the mission completed long ago? The Deviants have long since vanished from Earth," Cersei said, puzzled. "The Deviants?" Ajak hesitated, but before he could explain further, the wooden door of the stone house was suddenly pushed open from outside. The latch broke in two and clattered to the floor. All 10 of the Eternals remained seated, frowning, their gazes fixed on the doorway. Anyone bold enough to barge in like that would have a hard time facing 10 superpowered beings. But the next thing to step through the door was a fluffy calf. A small paw stepped casually into the room, and then the rest of the animal followed, a black and white Siberian husky. It stood there amid the wind and dust blowing in, scanning each of them. From its eyes, the Eternals felt the unmistakable expression of regal disdain. This Siberian husky is somehow kind of handsome, Cersei blurted, stunned. The others nodded in unison, then immediately shook their heads. Wait, the husky kicked the door latch open? Someone said. That's not right. Before he could finish, the husky's eyes sharpened as if thunder and lightning had been unleashed. In an instant, it vanished from the doorway and then reappeared in the center of the room. All at once, each of the Eternals felt a brutal slap across the face. No, across their chins. And then everything went black. They woke up a day later, disoriented, unable to understand how a Siberian husky had knocked them out. These Eternals are no good. They couldn't even withstand one of my slaps, Liang said with amusement. He stepped over their unconscious forms, leisurely collected their blood, patted his rump, and turned to leave. They protected Earth in the movie version, so I'll leave them be for now. I'll deal with them later when I go after the Celestial in the planet's core. If you picked a fight with one Celestial, the whole faction would answer. The weaker Celestials could blow up a planet. The stronger ones could casually destroy a universe. To devour the celestial embryo inside Earth, Liang knew he would first need the strength to challenge the Celestials. He still had to develop for a few more years. Otherwise, he'd end up like the comic Odin and be overwhelmed by a celestial alliance. After taking the Eternal's blood, Liang returned to Kamar Taj and entered his inner world. He stood on a small patch of grass as fine black and red lines reappeared across his body. Seconds later, he shifted from the shape of a Siberian husky into a mass of viral stock solution. Begin devouring, he ordered. He activated his ability. Instantly, all the foreign blood inside him was broken down and absorbed by the blacklight virus, then optimized and reassembled. Liang monitored the process as genes decomposed and recombined. First, a mass of inhuman genes merged into the virus. At first, the virus's genetic level showed no major change, but after absorbing Black Bolt's genes, its genetic level suddenly jumped to 3x. As expected of Black Bolt, his power ceiling is very high. Coupled with what I already had, a jump to 3x is reasonable. Next, the Eternal's genes. 10 drops of Eternal blood dissolved within the Blacklight virus. When the first Eternal gene successfully integrated, Liang felt his aura surge, directly transcended to 6At's genes. Continue. One after another, the Eternal's genes merged. When the last Eternal gene fused into his body, the Blacklight virus's genetic level had climbed to 10x. Nice. That feeling of life evolving is so good, he murmured. The Blacklight clone writhed and shifted back into human form. The Eternals' cosmic manipulation, their super speed, super strength, energy vision like Cyclops, rapid healing, illusion, combined with the Inhuman sonic attacks, spatial transformation, hair control, shockwaves. All these powers are now within me. However, the fragments of these extraordinary abilities are complex. It'll take time to study them and fully understand them. He paused, already planning. Next, I'll go devour the genes of other creatures on Earth. For a time after that, Liang traveled the world, devouring every kind of life he could find, from whales tens of meters long to virus particles floating in the air. Among humans, he took everything from the mighty Hulk to weak, unawakened Inhumans. Liang spared no one. As he consumed Earth's biosphere, his Blacklight clone not only evolved to the 16X gene level, but also received broad enhancements across many abilities. The genes and forms of every living creature were stored and backed up in the memory matriarch. Only the Hulk's lineage proved different. After absorbing Banner's blood, the Blacklight virus couldn't transform directly into the Hulk. It only produced variants resembling the Abomination or the Red Hulk. Repeating the experiment produced the same result. Sometimes the clone turned into a Red Hulk, sometimes a Gray Hulk. Though the MCU hasn't explicitly said that the Hulk's power comes from beneath all things, it was clear the Hulk was fundamentally special and couldn't be fully replicated. Having finished with Earth's life, Liang turned his attention to aliens. He recalled a super scroll and had him harvest tissue from many alien races. After decomposing and absorbing those alien genes and the super scroll's blood, the blacklight clone reached the 20x gene level. Cosmic species are disappointing, Liang grumbled afterward. Genetically, out of tens of thousands of races, very few have strength over a ton. No wonder the Guardians of the Galaxy can move around the universe with ease. But it's better than nothing. Keep having the Super Scroll collect more, he decided. Liang wasn't optimistic. He suspected that even if the Blacklight clone devoured all ordinary alien life in the current universe, it still might not reach the level of his main body. I still need genes from the truly strong, he muttered. Odin, Zeus. Gods aren't out of the question. He sighed. If Dormammu were around now, a few bites would be wonderful. Dormammu's an energy life form. Could the Blacklight virus even absorb him? Someone asked. Forget it. If I ever get their blood or tissue, I'll study it properly, Liang replied. For now, let's go back to the apartment. The Parkers and the Maximoff siblings are coming over today. Time slipped into early November. The Parker family visit little Shirley had mentioned a month ago was finally set for the first Saturday of the month. Coincidentally, Wanda and Pietro were coming too, to hand over blood samples to Liang. For people he knew, Liang simply asked for blood. He didn't disguise himself as a Siberian husky to knock anyone out. Trusting his Superman-like strength, everyone, even Banner, didn't hesitate when giving blood. Before returning home, Liang had even invited the sorcerers to dinner at the apartment. Wong and Mordo both declined without hesitation. Construction on Kamartaj's small world was still in full swing. Both factions were throwing themselves into building it. After all, when you're personally transforming a small world, no one says no. When Liang got back, Natasha had already prepared dinner. Lemon sea bass with mousse mini cakes and roasted bread as the main course, a very Western spread. Yelena sat on the sofa, holding Shirley in her arms and laughing openly as they watched Tom and Jerry. The two of them, one big, one small, were having a blast. Yelena, you're just sitting here watching TV with Shirley? Liang plopped down beside her and tapped her head. Aren't you going to help Natasha in the kitchen? Ah! Yelena glared playfully and squeezed Shirley's little hand. Boss, you hit me as soon as you get back. You just got back too, Liang said. You haven't helped either. What did you call me? Yelena narrowed her eyes. Boss, isn't that right? She tried to read his expression. What's a boss for? A boss is for making subordinates work non-stop, Yelena said, puffing out her cheeks. A few seconds later, her face fell. She put Shirley down on the sofa, slumped her shoulders, and shuffled toward the kitchen, her golden hair seeming to lose its shine. I know. I'll go help now. Shirley, when you watch the rest of the episode, laugh for me too. She moved like a sad traveler leaving home, each step slow and desolate. The melancholy almost rubbed off on Liang, and he was about to tease the drama queen when the doorbell rang. At that sound, Yelena instantly brightened. Coming! Coming! I'll get the door. Her back straightened and her hair seemed to sparkle again as she skipped away. Liang exchanged a look with Shirley. Your sister Yelena's a bit of an idiot, isn't she? Shirley replied immediately. You'll have to take care of her more from now on. Liang laughed out loud. The Parkers and the Maximoff siblings arrived almost at the same time. After introductions, they quickly got comfortable. The Parker party was just two people, Peter and his Aunt May Parker, both already familiar to Liang. Aunt May presented a gift as soon as she stepped in and warmly thanked Shirley. Peter wasn't being bullied at school anymore, she said, all thanks to Shirley. 6-year-old Peter politely said thank you, but his attention quickly wandered to the Iron Man masks on the wall. Shirley, who had already dominated various elementary and middle schools in Queens, waved the compliment off and said coolly that the bullies had realized their mistakes on their own. She only helped them see the error of their ways. Most people would have thought she was joking, but Aunt May had heard Shirley's nickname, Kingpin of the school, and gave a thumbs up without hesitation. Wanda and Pietro stayed quiet at the side. Wanda glanced at Liang from time to time, and Pietro sidled up behind Peter and whispered, What's so great about Iron Man? Quicksilver is the coolest superhero. Chapter 229, Wanda escapes again. Since helping repel Dormammu at Kamartaj, Pietro had awakened to his powers and become a street-level superhero in New York. He took the name Quicksilver and dispensed justice after school. Word of him spread quickly. A month ago, when Kingpin mysteriously disappeared for a few days, rumors said Quicksilver even hit several of Kingpin's strongholds. Little Peter Parker knew the street hero by reputation. He just didn't agree with Pietro's methods. At the dinner table, Peter sat opposite Pietro, his mouth full of food, but his eyes fixed on the older boy, broadcasting his disapproval. Natasha and May chatted happily nearby. As a professional agent, Natasha knew exactly how to handle people. Every sentence landed in May's comfort zone. By the end of the meal, May had already decided Natasha was a friend she could trust. She even offered to wash the dishes and sent Peter and the others off to play in the living room. Liang, who had been about to clear the table with a summoned clean sweep, stopped mid-motion. Natasha raised an eyebrow and collected the plates. "We have a dishwasher," she said. "No need to fuss." Still, Natasha and May eased everyone out of the dining room together. Liang nudged Peter. "Looks like Natasha really likes your May, huh?" he teased, skimming Peter's nose with a finger. Peter blinked. "That's great. Mai's the best person in the world." "Oh, really? Didn't you just say at dinner that Iron Man was the best?" Pietro leaned his big face toward Peter. "That's different," Peter protested. "Iron Man's the best in the outside world. May's the best at home." No, repeat after me. Quicksilver is 10 times better than Iron Man." Pietro shot back. "No way." Peter jumped up. "Quicksilver's good, but he's new. Iron Man is the best. Quicksilver. Iron Man." The two of them bickered like kids, and Liang felt a strange déjà vu. He looked around and saw Yelena and Shirley on the sofa, watching Tom and Jerry. That, he realized, was the feeling he had. He turned to Wanda. "Your brother used to be like this too?" Wanda happened to be looking at Liang at the same moment. Their eyes met, she froze for a heartbeat, and then quickly averted her gaze, flustered. "He's always been like that," she stammered. "Like someone who never grew up. Don't mind him." Her cheeks were slightly pink, and though she looked away, an unmistakable lightness danced in her eyes. Liang noticed every micro-expression. Wait, this read like a scene from a romantic comedy. How had Wanda gotten even more innocent in a month apart? He thought about it. Wanda's manner was exactly how a girl acted when facing someone she liked. The fluttering had started when she ran away last time and hadn't died down. It seemed only to have intensified. It made sense. They hadn't met in person, but Liang had been buying up headlines for the past month. Web pages and newspapers kept recycling glossy photos with captions like, "Superman saves the world again." The photos showed a hero, built like a statue, something that made any impressionable girl dream late into the night. With Tony's countless lessons and drills in his head, Liang set aside his original plan to question the siblings about their blood. He smirked and moved a little closer to Wanda. "A month's gone by, and you haven't come to see me. How's your chaos magic practice? You're not avoiding me, are you?" "No." Wanda raised her head as if she were trying to gather courage to meet his eyes. The instant their gazes locked, her voice dropped. Liang's proximity made her step back on instinct. "The practice is going well. I just didn't come looking for you." Her answer sounded weak. She took another tiny step backward as if to put more distance between them. "Is that so?" Liang took a step forward. "Your words aren't very convincing. I haven't even." He tried to finish, but before he could, Wanda found herself backed into a corner. With no place left to retreat, she let out a small, animal-like whimper, dug into her pocket, and shoved 2 test tubes into his hands. "This is the blood you wanted. I'm going to the gym on the top floor to practice chaos magic." Wanda's heart hammered. With both hands, she flung a gesture in front of her and summoned chaos magic to open a spatial passage directly to the top floor gym. She slipped through, and the portal snapped closed behind her. Liang stood frozen for a moment. Using chaos magic to make a spatial link, she'd truly been practicing and had developed a personalized application of her power. Liang didn't immediately pursue her. He turned the 2 tubes over in his hands. If the blacklight virus consumed Wanda's blood, could it allow him to directly master chaos magic? He knew it was unlikely, but the idea set his pulse racing. He sent the samples into his internal world. The blacklight clone, a dark, humanoid, liquid entity that lived in his inner domain, flowed forward and devoured them. Pietro's blood was processed first. The clone absorbed and decomposed it without hesitation. The result was obvious. Its already present superspeed had been strengthened further. Next, it consumed Wanda's blood. There was a faint residue of chaos magic in it, subtle and diffuse. Liang's genetic primal energy began to strip away the blood's magical protections. Once those defenses were cleared, the blood was rapidly decomposed and assimilated. Seconds later, the blacklight-affected version of Liang surged with black and red tendrils and momentarily took on Wanda's likeness. He raised his hands and tried to channel chaos magic, but nothing, only an overwhelming wave of raw genetic energy filled the space. No actual magic manifested. It seems genes alone aren't enough, Liang observed aloud. Wanda can use chaos magic. There must be a soul-related factor involved. He tried again, this time layering the space stone's energy around himself, searching for any reaction. The stone's power wavered, but produced no spark of chaos magic. Even if he tried to copy powers the way the Super Scroll did, it wouldn't replicate a power rooted in whatever soul-linked element Wanda possessed. In the end, Liang shook his head and made a decision. He shouldn't try to steal what he couldn't replicate. He should talk to Wanda directly. He drew a mystic art of portals in the air and stepped through to the top-floor gym. The gym on the top floor had been converted by the men in black for use during breaks. They'd joined 4 large apartments into one space and installed more than 10 boxing rings. In the early morning and again at dusk, the setting sun poured through the French windows, flooding the rings with light like a rising tide. At those times, the shadows cast by sparring partners looked almost beautiful. Wanda sat on the edge of a ring, staring out the window. The late sun warmed her face, and her hair picked up a wine-tinted glow. A shadow slid over her from the side, cutting the light. A few beats later, she turned her head and found Leon leaning on the ropes, one hand draped over them, forcing them down by a good 10 centimeters. He was blocking the sun and grinning. "So your way of practicing magic is to squat on the floor, clear your head, and let your powers ferment like old rice?" he teased. Wanda felt she should be annoyed, but the words didn't sting. "After dinner, I need to digest before I can exercise," she offered mildly. "Is that a serious reason for you?" Leon sat down beside her and let the sunlight hit his face, turning him hazy and golden. Wanda watched for a moment, then turned away and covered her flushed nose so she wouldn't have to look. "Tony set up private lessons for Pietro and me," she explained. "They go over everything from elementary to high school. I'm actually pretty good at biology now." "For how long?" Leon asked. "So you're a prodigy." "Oh no, I can already picture you in a lab coat examining magical creatures' droppings like Betty." He slapped his forehead dramatically. "Chaos magic can speed up my thinking," Wanda said, her wandering expression snapping to focus. "Betty, who is that?" Girls are good at catching the point. Wanda had already realized from Natasha and Yelena's behavior that Leon was much the same kind of playboy Tony Stark was. She'd gotten used to it after 2 months, but she still didn't like being compared to a possible ex. Leon, predictably, clarified, "Betty is Banner's girlfriend. I can introduce you." "Banner's girlfriend?" Wanda sounded surprised. "Bruce Banner has a girlfriend?" "Yeah, Betty is a biologist, perfect match for Banner. Someone like you who studies biology would get along with her." Leon spread his hands. Wanda didn't want to explain the other reason she'd taken to biology, her private, unsettling curiosity about whether superhumans and ordinary people were reproductively compatible, so she lied a little. "I want to understand how my magic is generated inside my body," she said. "You could have just asked me," Leon said, raising an eyebrow. "Chaos magic has little to do with your physical body. It's mainly about your soul." "How do you know?" Wanda asked, curious. "After you gave me a blood sample, I ran a few tests," Leon replied. "I've also been looking into the genetics of a lot of organisms lately." "Soul," Wanda reached out uncertainly and summoned a small swirl of crimson chaos magic to her fingertips. She frowned, watching the shimmer. It was hard to see how something intangible like a soul could be relevant. "Don't try to explain it," Leon said lightly. "Some things aren't easy to put into words." "Almost every Wanda in the multiverse can use chaos magic," he continued. "That's your power. You were born the Scarlet Witch." He pointed to the magic in her hand. Instead of dwelling on origin, Why don't you show me that spatial spell again, the one that opened the portal? You saw it earlier? Wanda asked. She smiled then, no longer melancholy but quietly proud. I picked the technique up from studying Kamartaj's mystic art of portals. She put her hands together, fingers moving in a practiced pattern, and crimson energy gathered and stretched into space. Like you said before, compared to the others I dreamed about, I'm better at applying spatial magic. As she finished the motion, the air in front of her tore open. A circular passage yawned, and beyond it was a kaleidoscopic world. Rhombus-shaped colored crystal walls filling the space. Leon's eyes widened. Did you rupture the barrier between universes? Wanda nodded. When I make a spatial passage, I open the universe's barriers at 2 points and link them temporarily. Leon's face took on a strange, incredulous expression. Wanda's method sounded bluntly forceful, beautiful in its simplicity. When you did this, did you see a big bald man with a huge head outside the portal? He asked. Wanda blinked. Leon explained, there was an ancient race of observers born at the beginning of existence. They'd watched everything since the start of time. One member, Uatu the Watcher, loved watching Earth and showed up at major events. If Wanda had blown open a barrier like that, Uatu would have been stunned and likely come to investigate. Wanda shook her head. No big bald man? You mean the ancient one? She said. Master Wong said he said she was your former Sorcerer Supreme. If you wanted, I could try to open the dimension where eternity resides. Leon winced. That was unnecessary. He imagined it, a novice casually opening eternity's domain to ask for favors or to chase mortality. No, that won't be necessary, he said, embarrassed. There are gentler ways to meet the Ancient One. Wong is gathering magical materials and plans to make portraits of past Sorcerer Supremes. He grinned. Like Hogwarts, portraits that can speak with the owner's soul and move on their own. That sounds incredible. There's magic like that. Wanda's eyes widened. If you want to learn it properly, you can wait until the Magic Academy is built and study there, Leon said, spreading his hands. It'll expand how you use chaos magic. I definitely will. Wanda nodded enthusiastically, then glanced at the half-finished rift she'd torn open in front of them. Is my space magic really that strange? It feels different from the mystic art of portals. Leon's earlier surprise made her doubt herself. He looked even more puzzled now. Strange? You're almost opening portals to the multiverse. That's not a flaw. That's powerful. Wanda considered his words seriously for a moment before shaking her head. I still can't travel across the multiverse. I can't sense places that far away. But maybe I can randomly open rifts to other worlds, she added, thinking aloud. Leon's surprise was genuine. You can actually pierce the barrier between universes? He stepped forward and took Wanda's hand before she could pull away. I'll assist you. Let's try together. Her cheeks heated. Being held made her feel helpless, like a cat with its scruff grasped, like a reindeer carried over a hunter's shoulder. She nodded and concentrated, then began to cast her magic again. Chaos magic flowed through the rift, probing for a destination. Usually it found nothing and snapped back into her universe. This time, though, something surged through, warm, fierce energy that flooded her body from the large hand around her wrist. It felt like a sun drilling into her, bathing every cell in heat. Her consciousness rose, stretched toward the sky by an invisible force. She could see farther than before. A large, bald head in a tattered blue cloak flashed in her vision, the big, bald man Leon had mentioned, but it was gone almost immediately. Wanda kept looking, and the sight widened into a field of dark bubbles, other universes. They multiplied rapidly, 2, 3, hundreds, thousands. She'd never realized how many universes floated around her world. She reached out with her chaos magic and touched the barrier of the nearest bubble. A channel opened easily. How is it? Can you open a space channel to other universes? Leon's voice sounded in her ear. Wanda nodded, delighted. I can. Good, he said. I'm assisting with gene primeval energy and the space stone. Remember this. Try to replicate the feeling when you practice on your own. Wanda held the moment close and began to withdraw her magic, eager to explore more later. Then a second wave of chaos magic rose up from the universe bubble she'd touched and surged back through the channel. It collided with hers. Wanda barely registered that she wasn't harmed. Instead, she flickered a vision of another Wanda, her own face, held inside a transparent experimental chamber by Hydra. I dreamed of her, Wanda murmured. The other Wanda was the one from her earliest dream, the one who wanted revenge on Tony Stark. Who did you see? Leon asked. Another me, Wanda answered, but she didn't get to explain. Leon's voice sped up. Wait, did you just release energy outside our universe? What's happening? Wanda asked, alarmed. Leon's face tightened. Your chaos magic weakened our universe's barrier. Some unusual gravitational pull has spread in. Something special is about to happen. Pause. Warmth left her body like wind out of a bellows. Her expanded awareness collapsed, the channel closed, and consciousness contracted back into her chest. She opened her eyes and saw Leon's expression shift from wonder to alarm. Oh no, that wave is heading for Peter. The gym ring dissolved around her. In an instant, she was back in Leon's apartment living room. Pietro was gripping Peter Parker's ankle. Peter's body had been sucked partway into a black spatial hole. The pull was violent enough that Pietro's upper body was being dragged in too. The rift had opened so suddenly that, aside from the speedster Pietro, no one had reacted in time. Pietro, let go. Do you want to be torn apart with him? Someone shouted. Leon was in front of the rift before they could think. He yanked Pietro away, and with both hands began manipulating space itself. Gold gene primeval energy and the blue energy of the space stone pulsed and flared from him, bathing the room in light. Everyone stared as he slowed the spinning vortex and forced it to contract. No. As the channel was collapsing, Leon plunged into the shrinking void. That wave targeted Peter. It came from another world, no prior signals, like a natural phenomenon, not man-made. Something there is pulling him. I'm going to see. I'll go with you, Wanda cried, leaping forward, her hands laced in crackling chaos magic. No, wait. Leon's voice called from inside the channel, but Wanda's fingers already brushed its edges. The moment her magic touched the rift, that invisible wave returned. It pierced through the universe itself and began to spread outward. The channel blinked out beneath her hand. She felt nothing. What is going on? Pietro said, stunned. He looked at his sister. Peter's not okay, is he? Wanda's jaw set. Leon must be all right. No, she couldn't leave it. She sat cross-legged and actively reached out, trying to attune to the multiverse. On the other side of the vanished rift, Leon emerged into an unfamiliar city. He stepped out of the hole, and the first figure he saw had its back to him, a figure in a red uniform, swinging slightly between buildings. Spider-Man? Mr. Lion saw a Spider-Man not far ahead. He crouched on the edge of a rooftop in the classic red and blue suit, hands and feet braced together. The lighting was poor, so the red looked almost too bright against the dark city. When Mr. Lion stepped out of the spatial passage, he heard him muttering to himself. All right then, let's go over it. I'm Peter Parker, bit by a radioactive spider, turned into Spider-Man. Not long ago, because of my meddling, Mr. Steven's spell went wrong, and villains from other universes came into my world. With the help of 2 other Spider-Men, I managed to fix them and send them back. But I lost Aunt May in the process, and everyone forgot I was Spider-Man. I messed everything up. Even MJ forgot me. But no matter how bad it gets, I'll get back up. Aunt May always said helping one person is like helping 100. Today I was wearing my new homemade suit, ready to help my neighbors in Brooklyn, when a black hole sucked me away. Oh my God, there must be a Peter Parker in this world who interrupted Mr. Steven. But this city doesn't feel right either. Spider-Man could talk nonstop. His monologue made Mr. Lion guess who he was. Peter Parker? Mr. Lion called as he stepped forward. Whoa, whoa. Spider-Man jumped, flipping to the other side of the rooftop. His hands flew to his mask and his eyes widened in the lenses. God, when did you get behind me? Why didn't Peter flinch? Wait, you know my name? Oh no, I must have said it out loud. I thought no one would be enjoying the night view with me over this pitch-black city. Mr. Lion had never met anyone who talked so much. Not even Tony Stark and he together would be anywhere near as loquacious. I know you're Peter Parker, he interrupted. He raised his left hand and cast Ragador's ring. And I also know you caused some trouble recently. Spider-Man stared at the golden ring in Mr. Lion's palm. He peeled off his mask, revealing a young, familiar face. So you're a wizard from Kamartaj. But how do you remember me? Mr. Lion studied him. This was definitely the Holland Spider-Man, probably the one from the main movie universe. Maybe because I'm not from your world, Mr. Lion said. My universe is adjacent to yours, and there's a Peter Parker there too. Another universe? Is he still in middle school? Holland Spider asked, cupping his chest as if suddenly anxious. If you see him, can you tell him not to let Mr. Steven cast forgetting spells so casually? Sorry, I don't know much about your place yet. Do you have a Thanos? He's purple. Relax, kid. Don't worry about my universe. Mr. Lion glanced toward the city center and activated his enhanced hearing and vision. After a brief moment, he had the information he wanted. Kingpin, a collision experiment, Spider-Man. This is Sony's Spider-Verse, he murmured. No wonder the time and space stone's effects are weak. I remember it clearly. The Kingpin here ran a space-time collision experiment to save his wife. The experiment failed temporarily because this world's Spider-Man interfered, but it also pulled Spider-Men from other universes over. The reason even little Spider was affected is probably because chaos magic weakened our universe's barrier. He looked at Holland Spider. You were likely pulled here when Wanda tried to catch up. That collision wave spread again. Holland Spider frowned. You know what happened in this world? That's right. Mr. Lion drew a small portal with a flick of his fingers. Come on, we'll save someone on the way, and then go back to our own universe. The scene cut to the ruins of a massive experimental facility. Shattered steel frames and jagged concrete slabs littered the ground. The air hung heavy with yellow-brown dust. A Spider-Man, his suit torn and smeared with blood, lay draped over rebar. He coughed and tried to push himself up. Standing over him, huge and calm in a black suit, was Kingpin. Hey, Kingpin, the injured Spider-Man rasped, forcing a weak grin. Long time no see. How's business? Kingpin stepped forward and with one casual motion, ripped Spider-Man's mask away. The face beneath was young and blonde, pale with cuts. Oh no, this is worse than I thought, the man managed. He had no strength left to protest as Kingpin stared down at him. Don't do this, Kingpin, he pleaded. Your collision experiment will destroy Brooklyn. You can't. You want to resurrect your loved ones? It won't work, Kingpin said flatly. I've seen other worlds through the collider. They're all dead. He looked at the Spider-Man with a blank hardness that barely hid his grief. Impossible, he finally whispered, as if refusing to accept what he'd seen. Then Kingpin's expression went cold. He raised his massive hands without warning. The muscles in his bear-like body coiled, his fists clenched and came down with terrible force. The injured Spider-Man had nowhere to go. The two blows were destined to finish him. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The swinging steel, the falling dust, the lab's ruined lights flickering in the distance. The alley of rubble held its breath as Kingpin's fists closed around the moment. Bang! Kingpin's fist was already halfway down when another Spider-Man suddenly leapt in and stopped it. He wore a red and blue suit like the other Spider-Men, crouched to absorb the blow, and then rose as if it had been nothing. Phew, hello everyone. Just in time. Well, actually, Mr. Lion arrived just in time. Holland Spider held Kingpin's fist in one hand and waved with the other. He made a fist and thumbed over his shoulder at the other Spider-Man. Sorry, Kingpin. Even if you don't look much like the Kingpin from our universe, I can't let you keep hurting this guy. He's badly hurt. Don't we need an ambulance? Spider-Man? Kingpin narrowed his eyes, withdrawing his hands as he scanned the two web-slingers. Another one? A smile creased his face. From another universe? Haha, I knew the experiment worked. He got his confirmation, laughed, and turned to go, calling out to Prowler and Tombstone nearby. Handle them. Prowler, clad in purple combat armor, and Tombstone, with his flat top, charged Holland Spider at once. In a typical Spider-Man story, they were old adversaries, well-practiced in battling Spider-Man. Even with Holland Spider's experience and skill, the three of them locked into a furious back-and-forth skirmish. Mr. Lion strolled past them, casually inspecting like a man window shopping. He approached the injured Spider-Man on the ground. How are you feeling? Can you sit up? Walk a little? Cough. Are you a Spider-Man too? The injured man managed. I'm fine. Feels like a lot of bones are broken. Mr. Lion glanced him over. To be precise, 34 bones. Is that so? The wounded Spider-Man grinned despite himself at the inflated number. Then I've still got 172 bones that are fine. The optimism was pure Spider-Man. You really are an optimist. Leon couldn't help pulling out a device and taking a picture. an elegant, stark holographic phone for a quick selfie. The shutter clicked, and despite the blood on his chest, the injured Spider-Man flashed a peace sign and a brilliant grin. "Cheese!" he shouted. Mr. Lion lowered his phone with a puzzled smile at the photo, a bloody chest, a flower-bright smile. The Spider-Man, embarrassed, explained, "Sorry, I just instinctively posed. People ask for photos all the time." Mr. Lion arched an eyebrow. "Aren't you a little too friendly? Doesn't Mary Jane complain about you being a goody two-shoes?" "He does complain," the Spider-Man said, catching a jade bottle Mr. Lion tossed him from inside his cloak. "But she's always with me, isn't she? What is this?" "For healing. Drink it." "Hey guys, before you start bonding, mind if I join?" Holland Spider called, swinging down on a web mid-battle. Prowler and Tombstone glanced over and exchanged a look. "I'll take care of that Spider-Man first." Prowler leapt away with a nimble twist, racing toward Mr. Lion along the wall like a mantis. "Careful, Mr. Lion," Holland Spider warned, then kept fighting, trusting that a Camartage sorcerer could handle such threats. After all, those sorcerers had faced Thanos' legions in the End War. "A warning's useless," Prowler snarled as he closed in, sharp-clawed blades extending from his hands with a menacing glint. He lunged. The right blade drove straight toward Mr. Lion's neck. "Die!" Mr. Lion did not move. The injured Spider-Man behind him widened his eyes, then gritted his teeth and struggled to his feet. He sprang forward despite his wounds. "What? You couldn't stand a moment ago, and now you're getting up to save someone? Must you be so dramatic?" Mr. Lion looked surprised, caught him with a wry smile, and with a flick of his hand casually slapped Prowler aside. The villain shot out like a meteor, his purple form tearing through the ruined lab and blasting into the sky. He became a streak, a shooting star. The high-speed friction tore him apart into scattered carbon fragments. The laboratory fell silent. Tombstone froze for a heartbeat, then turned to run. Mr. Lion's heat ray chased him, piercing through his chest. Holland Spider and the healed man both stared in shock. "Mr. Lion, your magic's different from Mr. Stevens," Holland Spider said, unfazed by having seen Cosmic Wars. He sounded impressed. "But, it's pretty cool." The other Spider-Man, who'd protected his own world for years, only frowned slightly amid the carnage. "Ideally, hand them to the police, but never mind. You helped me a lot. Thank you." "It's nothing." Mr. Lion gently set the injured Spider-Man on his feet, then urged, "Peter, drink what I gave you first." "Huh? What is it?" Holland Spider asked, swinging down on a web. "I'm talking to the Spider-Man in front of me. He's Peter Parker too," Mr. Lion said, pointing. "Really? Nice to meet you. I'm Peter Parker as well. I've met 2 other Peter Parkers before. You're the 3rd. Holland Spider extended a hand. "Hi. Sorry I couldn't stop Kingpin sooner. You 2 must have been brought here by that collider experiment, and now—" The healed Spider-Man didn't wait. He drank the spring water Mr. Lion had given him without hesitation. "Thanks. This tastes a bit sweet." Within seconds, his wounds knit closed. He sat back in surprise until he was already on his feet, fully recovered. "What is this? It's better than an ice-cold cola." He touched his chest in amazement and kept thanking Mr. Lion. "I can vouch. Your world is amazing." "Amazing," Holland Spider said. He thought for a moment, trying to remember if Strange had anything like this. "Mary Jane's going to be so happy tonight. Cough. Sorry." The other Peter coughed and added, "I mean, there are probably other Spider-Men who've come to my world too." "You mean there are other Spider-Men here?" Holland Spider asked, peeling off his mask again. "Yeah, we should find them, then figure out a way to send everyone back." The healed Peter analyzed. "The collider brought you here, so another collider might send you back. Maybe when Kingpin prepares his next experiment, we can use the chance to leave, and I can destroy his machine at the same time." Holland Spider nodded, excited. "We should be able to track them with our Peter tingles. Or find Aunt Mai. Every Spider-Man seems to seek out Aunt Mai," the other Peter added. "Aunt Mai." Holland Spider went quiet, his eyes suddenly distant. Chapter 234, Chapter 3, Worms Farewell. Holland Spider's thoughts drifted to Aunt May, who had recently passed away. She had been his last family in the world. "Every Peter Parker has his Aunt May," he murmured. Leon patted him on the shoulder. "Every Peter may have an Aunt May, but yours was different. Don't dwell on it." "It's so late, it wouldn't be right to disturb her," Holland said. but Leon was already drawing circles in the air. Portals opened around them, the golden sparks of their edges casting a warm light across the ruins. Besides, finding the other Spider-Men won't be that hard. Let them find their own way here, Leon said. He opened 10 portals. On the far side of each, a figure appeared, perched on rooftops or in rooms they'd temporarily taken refuge in. Holland's gloom lifted at the sight. 10 portals, so there are 10 more Spider-Men? More or less. Leon reached up. A tiny screamer fell from one of the portals and landed in his arms. Ah! Here it comes again! The child squirmed and then relaxed when Leon smiled down at him. Got you, little Peter. Huh, Leon? Brother Leon? The 6-year-old's eyes widened with relief. Were you sucked into a black hole too? Did we fall into hell? Thinking of Hell's Kitchen, Leon nodded. Something like that. We're going back to the human world, but when we do, you have to listen to May. If you don't, that hell demon that targeted you might eat you. Ah! Little Peter ducked his head and quickly promised, I'll be obedient. A Spider-Man standing nearby gave them a flat look. Calling my world hell is a bit harsh. I work really hard to stop crime. You almost died today, Leon said, raising an eyebrow. Holland Spider stepped closer. Is this a Peter Parker from your world? He looks a bit like you when you were little, right? Leon set little Peter down. Parallel universes do that. We even have the same Aunt May there. You should visit sometime. Peter froze, scratching his head as if to answer, when a sound came from another portal. Huh, is that you? A Spider-Man rose through the opening, peeled off his mask, and revealed a middle-aged face. Leon recognized him as Toby Spider. Holland Spider brightened. Hey, Peter, you're here too. Since Dr. Strange had erased everyone's memory of Peter Parker in his world, Holland had met no one who remembered him. Now suddenly so many knew him. The unexpected reunion began to feel like a friends' gathering. Holland swung in on a web and landed in front of Toby. How did you get here? I was on a date with Mary Jane, then this black hole dragged me out of it. Do you know what's going on? Toby asked. Mary Jane? Another Spider-Man stepped from a different portal, unmasking to show an older but familiar face. You married her? The others hesitated behind their portals until they heard the greeting. Then one after another, they came out. Garfield Spider removed his mask, Gwen in a white outfit, Penny Parker piloting a spider-mech, Shadow Spider-Man wearing a cape and felt hat, and Spider-Ham, pig-shaped and bewildered. These were characters straight out of other stories. 2 arrivals surprised Leon in particular, one in a classic red and blue suit, its fabric torn and battle-worn. The other was Deadpool, who was literally rubbing his body against the edge of a portal and making strange noises while staring at the younger Spider-Men. Deadpool? Leon blinked. He hadn't noticed him when searching earlier. How had Deadpool been swept up with all the Spider-Men? Maybe because his suit was red, or because he adored Spider-Man. Now, he was draped against the aperture, bleeding openly from cuts but fixated on the little spiders with weird high-pitched moans. Leon, seasoned as he was, found the man unbearable. This guy was a creep. In the center of the gathered group, Holland launched himself at Garfield. I can't believe I can actually see you. Garfield smiled at first, then frowned. Sorry, who are you again? You look familiar, but I don't have any impression. What? Holland staggered back as if hit. You don't remember me either? Could Dr. Strange's spell have erased your memories too? Holland's face crumpled. He forced a smile and blurted, I'm sorry. I'm Peter Parker from another universe. All right. Toby stepped forward and hugged Garfield, then clapped Holland on the shoulder. He's kidding. That doctor erased the memory that Spider-Man is Peter Parker across the world. But we are Peter Parker ourselves. How could we forget? Really? Holland looked at Garfield, bewildered. Of course, Garfield laughed, easing the tension. And when he cast the spell, we had already left your world, hadn't we? Holland exhaled in relief, then felt a flicker of embarrassment. You nearly gave me a heart attack tonight, Peter, too. That joke was too cruel. Garfield hugged him again. Sorry. I thought since we're all Peters, we'd see through each other's jokes. Now that makes it even worse. Holland forced a laugh that quickly became genuine. So, how have you two been since you went back? Toby shrugged. Still trying to get better. Same, Garfield said. If you two say you're fine, then I'm fine too. Kind of. Holland put his hands on their shoulders. My back still aches sometimes, Toby added. Mine too, the two Peters chimed in, and the three shared a knowing laugh. Chapter 235, A Touch of Red in the Little Spider. You guys actually know each other? The other Spider-Men asked as they gathered around. Holland Spider nodded. We've had encounters like today before. So you know what happened here? Shadow Spider-Man, wearing a black trench coat and a stark black and white look, asked. I do, Holland Spider said, raising his hand. It's like this. While the younger spiders crowded around Holland Spider to hear his version, one Spider-Man slipped around a pile of rubble. A black boy was hiding there. Hey kid, the Spider-Man said softly. We meet again so soon. You did great back there. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known what to do, the boy answered, trembling. Spider-Man held out his hand. Now you can give me back the override key. Go home quick, and we'll contact you in a couple days. After a short, hesitant exchange, the boy left. He clearly wanted to stay and help the Spider-Men, but he wasn't ready, mentally or physically. He was in bad shape, so bad that he hadn't even noticed his arm had been cut, blood spurting out behind him. That kid's name is Miles, Spider-Man told Leon when he returned. Like us, he was bitten by a radioactive spider. He's brave, but he's still very confused, like I was at the beginning. Before you arrived, I gave him the override key to destroy the collider, Leon said. Spider-Man opened his palm and revealed a white USB drive. This is it. It was unavoidable at the time, Leon said, but what's happening here isn't the right place for him yet, so I told him to go home quick. Leon nodded. Sounds like you plan to help him become Spider-Man later? If he's willing, Spider-Man smiled. I hope someone else will stand with me to protect the city. Leon, holding little Peter, walked down from the ruined structure with Spider-Man and stood beside Holland Spider. Where Holland Spider had finished explaining the situation and suggested, before we decide the next step, why don't we introduce ourselves? As he spoke, Shadow Spider-Man's trench coat, without a breeze, flicked as if stirred by an invisible wind. No matter where I go, the wind moves with my will, he intoned. I am Peter Parker from 1933. One by one, Penny Parker, Spider-Ham, and the three movie spiders introduced themselves. Then another, middle-aged spider who resembled the familiar cinematic Peter stepped forward. I am Peter Benjamin Parker, he said. My life is pretty similar to that other middle-aged Peter. Bitten by a spider, saved the city, fell in love, no big differences. He tapped at the slightly protruding belly beneath his suit. It's just, my marriage is in a bit of a crisis. Mary Jane wants kids, but I can't bring myself to agree. He sighed, his scruffy face lined with world weariness. You know how it is. Being Spider-Man makes it hard to embrace new things. The others felt for him and murmured sympathetic words. Then a loud, jarring voice cut through the pity. Exactly. My dear little belly Peter, you are so right. Deadpool sprang out of the crowd and threw an arm around the middle-aged spider. A dark streak ran down the center of his red suit, from mask to crotch, streaked with the dried portal blood he'd brushed off. Isn't it ridiculous? Human weddings are full of drama, awkwardness, all kinds of nonsense, he crowed, hugging the other man. Why can't it be like seahorses, where you meet and boom, babies? His crude, violent imagery made the younger spiders take a step back. The middle-aged Peter just stared. Your marriage is having problems too? Oh, what a sad tale. Deadpool's voice softened, suddenly small and wounded. Vanessa and I broke up. All my fault. I understand your pain, the middle-aged spider said, ready to comfort him. It's the burden of us spiders. Wait, did you say Vanessa? Vanessa's not Mary Jane. Vanessa is, he trailed off. Kingpin's wife? Someone supplied. Deadpool's tone shot up 2 octaves. What, Kingpin? Who is that tiny roach that crawled out of a roach's gut? How would his wife be Vanessa? Well, the worlds are different. Maybe your Vanessa never met the Kingpin in your universe, another explained. No, she's not Vanessa. Deadpool jumped up, eyes going wide, mentally ticking off a list of grievances against Kingpin. He calmed a bit when the middle-aged spider reached out to soothe him. Oh, Peter, that makes me feel better, Deadpool cooed. Your words warm my heart like a kitten rubbing against my ex. No matter which Peter, they're all so kind, someone joked. Deadpool, predictably unpredictable, suddenly cupped the middle-aged spider's cheeks with both hands and planted a series of smacking kisses on his masked face. I just love you to death, Peter, he announced to the world, then wiped his mouth. Damn, your 5 o'clock shadow is delightfully kissable, though you should shave. Kissing would be easier. Okay, calm down. We're all Peters here, right? Oh my gosh, all that drool. The middle-aged spider wiped his face in disgust. The younger spiders exchanged bewildered looks. Gwen's brow furrowed. Wait, she said. All the Spider-Men should be able to sense each other via spider sense. You don't trigger it. You're not actually Spider-Man, are you? The spiders turned to Deadpool. He looked around, then at little Peter, cradled in Leon's arms, and grinned like a child spotting candy. Look, little Peter isn't a Peter either, is he? Although I'm not Spider-Man, he declared grandly, I am Peter. I am Peter Wade Parker, he added, mixing names. Deadpool pointed at each Spider-Man in turn. I love Peter. I love every Peter, you, and you. Every Peter he indicated felt an inexplicable tightening of nerves. So many Peters. I love you all. This place is heaven. Woohoo! He threw his arms wide and clapped Holland's spider around the shoulders, leaving a wet smudge on his face. Then he pounced on the others in turn, Toby, Garfield, Spider-Man, making breathy declarations of affection. Oh my God, it's poor Holland Spider and Tobey Maguire. Love your line. Try to be better. And you, Garfield, our poor Gwen. Gwen, standing nearby, looked thoroughly puzzled. Deadpool turned toward little Peter next. Look at this cutie. Are you Holland when he was little? Let Daddy Deadpool feel that soft little face. Poof. Before he could reach the child, Leon's iron hand stopped him. Bastard, this isn't your R-rated movie. You don't lay hands on kids. Leon's punch drove into Deadpool's head. The loudmouth crumpled to the ground, his mask-smushed skull briefly leaving a crater in the cracked concrete. Thank goodness he's finally quiet, the Spider-Men breathed, wiping cold sweat from their brows. Holland Spider even wiped drool from his chin. So there are weird Peters in other worlds, too, Gwen said, eyeing the prone figure. All the Peters immediately shook their heads to make it clear they weren't like him. Wait, is he dead? The middle-aged spider asked, rubbing his jaw as he stared at Deadpool's supposedly lifeless body. This Peter's loud and aggressive, but killing him seems a bit much, right? The Spider-Men swarmed over to check. His head's flat, one shouted. There's blood running down, another added. Why is his inner thigh bleeding? Little Peter, cradled in Mr. Lion's arms, opened his eyes and studied Deadpool for a long moment before whispering to Mr. Lion, Did you really kill this Peter? No, he's not dead, and he's not a Peter, Mr. Lion said, patting the boy's head. He's Deadpool. He can't die. Don't waste your feelings on him, someone cut in. They all turned. The ragged spider stood before them, his suit torn, chest and thighs ragged with holes, edges still dripping fresh blood. The middle-aged spider scratched his head. Deadpool? Never heard that code name. Are you from the same universe? He asked, eyeing the battered man. Don't worry about me. The ragged spider shook his head. This Deadpool isn't from my universe, but he's close enough. They all have healing factors, and they're all insane. Every time I meet one, I want to sew his mouth shut so nothing else comes out of that gas can brain. He pointed at Deadpool, whose head was already knitting itself back together. Forget him. We have to move now. Don't rush, the middle-aged spider urged. You're hurt. We should go to Aunt May's for medical help. No, I got hurt fighting someone, the ragged spider said. He's got exceptional tracking skills. He's been following me constantly. Holland Spider frowned. Even if he can track you, crossing universes seems impossible. Mr. Lion said this place is another branch of the multiverse, so it should be even harder. Oh, by the way, Holland added, Mr. Lion is a sorcerer from Kamartaj, and he came here with little Peter. He gestured to Mr. Lion. The ragged spider nodded at Mr. Lion. I'm not sure the tracker can follow, but it's not out of the question. This guy can steal others' life force and weaken me in a fight. I've studied his blood. His genes carry the shadow of all beasts. My gut says he's hunting Spider-Men. He's our nemesis. We need to restart the temporal particle collider and get back to our own universes. The ragged spider's voice was grave, but most of the other Spider-Men weren't convinced. They'd faced big threats before, world-ending villains and city-scale disasters, but the idea of an enemy that could cross universes felt too far-fetched. Mr. Lion, however, listened closely. That description sounds a lot like someone from the Inheritor family, Mr. Lion said, stroking his chin. Inheritors? The ragged spider repeated, looking at him. You know them? I know enough. Mr. Lion's eyes went distant as he accessed memories. They're a family that feed on animal totems from a universe like Earth-001. Their powers are vampire-like. They devour others' superpowers and life force, especially those tied to animal totems. Spiders are prime targets. Holland raised a hand. Like us? Spider-Ham piped up. Am I a target too? Mr. Lion nodded. Spider-Man's abilities come from the spider totem. You're all prey to them. Their goal isn't just to take powers. There was a prophecy saying the inheritor family would be destroyed by Spider-Man. To avoid extinction, they hunt every Spider-Man across the multiverse. A murmur ran through the group. Little spiders' faces registered shock. None of them had expected they were targets for such a predator. Normally they wouldn't come here, Mr. Lion added. They're from another branch of the multiverse. But judging from the ragged spider's injuries and the way you were tracked, something's not right. That damaged suit spider probably belonged to the comic book Multiverse, Mr. Lion thought. He then turned to the others. By the way, you haven't all introduced yourselves. Gwen grinned. We were interrupted by that Deadpool under your foot. I'm Gwen Stacy, Spider-Woman. I was in a band. Like a lot of you, I've lost friends. Also, I think I time jumped when I came here. I arrived last week, so I guess I've been waiting for you for a week. She peeled her mask off, revealing soft, shoulder-length blonde hair with one side shaved. It gave her a distinctive edge. Everyone stared. Garfield Spider's face went slack. Gwen's look and name dragged a painful memory across his features. Toby Spider and Holland Spider noticed and put a comforting hand on his shoulder. Holland's own eyes glistened. Seeing Garfield like that brought Aunt Mai to mind. Toby wrapped both his friends in an arm, trying to steady them. The small shared sorrow quieted the group for a moment. Gwen blinked. What's wrong? Is my haircut weird? It was an accident. When Miles got his powers, his webs got caught in my hair. Long story. It was an accident. It looks great, Toby said, squeezing his friends. Your intro reminded us of Uncle Ben and Aunt Mai. Garfield shook himself out of it. Sorry, I was thinking of a friend. She'd be about 10 years older than you. Gwen's face briefly clouded. I lost a friend too. Her voice softened. Others chimed in. I lost Uncle Benjamin, Shadow Spider-Man said. I lost my dad, Penny Parker offered. My Uncle Ben and Aunt Mai both, the middle-aged spider added, trailing off. Mr. Lion and Little Peter exchanged a glance, both hesitating to speak. Beneath their feet, Deadpool's hand twitched. It rose, struggled, and he croaked. Me too. I lost my handsome face. Mr. Lion's foot came down and flattened him again. Ignore the buzzkill, Mr. Lion said, holding up his phone and starting to record. Chapter 616, Spider-Man. The Spider-Men looked at one another. The sadness between them dissolved into a stunned silence. Gwen chuckled softly and took a dainty step back, one arm held behind her in a very girlish way. I can't exactly sympathize with the sorrow of you few Spider-Men who are just about to hit middle age, she said. But everything's going to get better and better, right, Spider-Men? Yes, it'll all get better. Holland Spider nodded, forcing the bitterness from his eyes. Besides, I'm not middle-aged. Those two are. I'm about to start university, he added, not wanting to be left out. Toby Spider and Garfield Spider exchanged glances, shrugged, and smiled. Ragged Spider took advantage of the lull to speak. Everyone, I'm also Peter Parker from Earth 616. I lost Ben, my mentor Dr. Connors, and my friends Harry and Gwen. The list of names caught in his throat, each one heavier than the last. Wait, you're from 6116? No suffix, just 616? Lion asked abruptly, stunned. That's right, just 616. Is there a problem? Ragged Spider asked. Lion activated his vision and scanned him a few times. No problem, I just didn't expect you to be from the true main universe. You really are Peter Parker from Earth 616. The 6116 universe, the one without a suffix, was the primary comics universe. Its Spider-Man had weathered every setback, yet never been completely defeated. During Secret Wars, he'd even become a kind of Beyonder Spider-Man, wielding power enough to restart the multiverse with a thought. The others understood the magnitude of who stood among them. Before Lion could finish, someone shot up from the rubble like a jack-in-the-box. Deadpool, who leapt to his feet and screamed at the top of his lungs. What? Main universe Spider-Man! He howled. You are that most charming, most beloved, cutest, most alluring, main universe Spider-Man with the sexiest little butt. Deadpool covered his face theatrically with both hands, his voice cracking. Oh my God, Peter, Peter, you're my Peter. Chest heaving, a trickle of fake blood on his brow, he lunged like a man possessed at Ragged Spider, Earth 616 Spider-Man. Damn it, another Deadpool whose brain's filled with exhaust fumes and toxic waste. Ragged Spider rolled his eyes and sidestepped the bear hug with practiced ease. He snapped his wrist and shot a web that pinned Deadpool to the wall. Listen, he warned. Strange Deadpool, if you try that again or mention Deadpool swords or spider eggs, I'll web your head into your underwear. Oh my goodness. Deadpool took a theatrical deep breath. Then do it. Front or back? I think back is more. Shut up. 616 Spider-Man sealed Deadpool's mouth with another web. He had seen worse and knew how to handle it. The other Spider-Men gaped. They'd assumed the first Deadpool was as lewd as it got, but apparently not. He won't die, right? Shadow Spider-Man asked, pulling a pistol. It won't come to that, Penny Parker blurted, flushing red. She tried to stop him, embarrassed by Deadpool's words. Even Garfield Spider and Holland Spider couldn't take it. They crouched and started hurling small stones from the wreckage at the pinned Deadpool, more as a way to vent than to punish him. For Deadpool, it might have felt like a reward. He grunted and didn't seem to mind. Lion watched with the weary patience of someone who'd seen peculiar behaviors before. Deadpool was chaos embodied, reckless, petty, yet fiercely protective of those he recognized. Chaotic good, with a healing factor and an irritating habit of breaking the fourth wall. The role fit him. 616 Spider-Man turned back to Lion. Magician Lion, you seem to know a lot about me. Do you know how to beat Morlun and the Inheritors? I know a little, Lion said. They can't tolerate nuclear radiation. That's one angle you can use. But Solace, the patriarch of the Inheritors, is very powerful. He can destroy universes. Don't be reckless. Destroy universes? 616 Spider-Man's breath caught. Then I'll need to talk to Captain Britain Spider-Man. You're Spider-Men. You can handle them, Lion said. By the way, have your universes recently collided with other worlds? Lion had been wondering that for a long time. When the multiversal Spider-Men fought the Inheritors in the comics, it was during the time of Secret Wars, when worlds were colliding. But Ragged Spider hadn't even heard of the Inheritors yet. If Lion's impression was right, the comic's timeline here was earlier than he'd thought. World collision? 6116 Spider-Man shook his head. I haven't heard Tony or Captain mention anything like that. You haven't heard? Then I see. Lion frowned, thoughtful. The comic universe's timeline being so early explained a lot. 616 Spider-Man turned to the group. You've seen what my enemies are like. We need to avoid drawing those guys into this multiverse. I think we have to restart the temporal particle collider as soon as possible. He clenched his fist and looked at the local Spider-Man. You know Kingpin here better than anyone. Do you know if he has another collider? Spider-Man hesitated. I'm not sure if Kingpin has a second collider. If not, we may have to wait for him to rebuild this one, 616 Spider-Man said, gesturing around. They looked. The laboratory dome soared 20 meters high before it collapsed. Half the structure lay in splinters. Only one of the collider's generators still stood. The rest had been blown away. Rebuilding it would take time, and time was something none of them had. All right, we've got to investigate first. Why don't you all stay at my place tonight? The local Spider-Man offered, rubbing the back of his neck. Aunt May will welcome you. Oh, she knows I'm Spider-Man. She knows you told your family? Gwen exclaimed. Actually, Aunt May figured it out, he said. No fights, no big problems. So telling your family you're Spider-Man doesn't always end badly? Gwen wondered, thinking of her own father. Not necessarily, Holland Spider said, remembering. My Aunt May knew too. I still managed to mess things up afterward. He scowled at the memory. As the Spider-Men chatted and made tentative plans, Lion raised an eyebrow. Before you go to Peter's house, why don't you let me try to fix this collider? Everyone turned to him in surprise, as if a bright idea had just dropped out of the sky. After a beat, 616 Spider-Man snapped his fingers. Right, we can fix it ourselves. He pointed at the assembled group. You're Peter, everyone's Peter. How hard can rebuilding a collider be? No. Lion held up a hand toward the half-collapsed dome. I mean, I can do it. Reparo, Lion intoned, borrowing a spell from a very different kind of school. Golden magic flared from his palms and spread outward. The ruins trembled and then vibrated violently as the spell took hold, binding snapped girders and knitting broken circuits. Chapter 238, Restarting the Collider. It was as if the whole world had been hit with a rewind button. Massive steel beams floated back into place. Concrete wall panels rose up, stones slotting together. Dust filled the air, then settled as the dome resealed itself. The spider people stared, slack-jawed, as an invisible hand rolled back time. In a few long breaths, the 20-meter-high collider lab had been restored to its pristine condition. Even the glass that had been smashed into shards was whole and clear again. On the other side of the room, the moment Leon finished casting, the eyes on Deadpool's mask went wide. He writhed in the webbing, trying desperately to shout something, twisting and contorting to get more reach. Time was running out. The building materials behind him were already filling in the wall. Just before the adamantium layer sealed him in, the younger spider heroes yanked him free with their webs. Deadpool flew in an arc, tearing through strands and landing in a graceless heap. He tumbled head over heels, a comical flop that left him on his back with a painful click like a broken spine. Still, he stuck a finger out toward Leon. "Oh my God, did my ears just short-circuit? Do we have a Harry Potter here?" He thumped to a stop, then barked. "Could it be Peter Harry Potter Parker?" "No," Leon said coolly. "I'm a wizard, not a magician, and I'm not Peter." The younger spider heroes clustered around him, curiosity and excitement buzzing. "You said you restored everything to its original state. Can you do it again?" "I've never seen Stephen use this kind of magic. Is this new?" "The author of Harry Potter must have been a wizard from Kamartaj." "Does Kamartaj have a big castle? Where's your wand?" "You can't possibly cast without one." Voices overlapped like a dozen orchestras, loud and breathless. Gwen and Spider-Ham even lifted Leon's forearm, checking for a wand tucked underneath. "Enough, enough," Leon said, a tired line forming at his eye. "How are you any different from Deadpool?" Compared to Deadpool, the sudden silence among the spider folks was total. They imagined themselves standing next to Deadpool, being compared, and a collective chill ran up their spines. Before they could argue, Deadpool yelled, pushed himself up, straightened with a dramatic shudder, then sprinted toward the group with arms outstretched. "I approve of Harry Potter. Peters, once our Deadpool sword meets your spider egg, you'll be—" A ball of web smacked his mouth shut. Web after web plastered him to the ground until he was stone still. Every Spider-Man had acted at once. In the sudden calm, 616 Spider-Man lowered his hand from Leon's bicep and wiped sweat from his forehead. "Thanks to Leon for repairing the particle collider. I think we can start it up now. What do you all think?" "Exactly. I agree. It's time to go home. I've still got homework." They all agreed and scattered. The modern Peters, all genius-level scientists when working together, could have the collider up and running in under 10 minutes. Gwen and the Shadow Spider-Man from 1933 stayed behind to say their goodbyes. "I can't believe that went so smoothly," Gwen sighed. "I feel like I wasted the whole week." "Think of it as an interdimensional vacation," Spider-Ham said, hefting Mjolnir and joking. He stood over Deadpool, repeatedly thwacking his head with the hammer to keep him down. Deadpool had secretly snapped a few bones and sliced through some webbing with a tiny adamantium knife, then leapt up to ambush Spider-Ham with a slobbery full-body hug and kisses. Under the repeated thwacks, Deadpool made a series of indecipherable noises somewhere between pain and pleasure. "I'll miss you all," Gwen said to the younger Peters. "I promise, when I go back, I won't have anyone who knows my secret." "Then tell your dad," little Peter suggested. "I even told Aunt Mai about being watched over by Shirley at school." Gwen laughed and flicked little Peter's forehead. "Different. If you got in a fight at school, would you tell Aunt Mai?" Little Peter thought, then shook his head. "No." "Don't lead him astray," Leon scolded. "Why are you talking about fighting?" Sorry. Gwen stuck out her tongue. "You shouldn't fight at school, Peter. Still wrong. But," Leon cut in, deadpan, "if you must fight, leave no evidence. Find a deserted corner and hit hard. If you can't win, go find Shirley. Whatever you do, don't lose." Little Peter stared. "Is that good advice?" Gwen smacked her forehead. Seriously? You're teaching him that? Peter, don't listen to him, Gwen said quickly, waving a small fist. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility. We have to be heroes. I want to be a hero, like my big brothers and sisters. Little Peter's face lit up. Are you sure? Leon asked. What do you think being Spider-Man is like? You can deliver food really fast, right? Little Peter said. Genius, Leon approved. No, you can get to scenes quickly and save people. Gwen added, pleading. A sudden crash echoed from the control room above. Leon's gaze snapped upward, his sight piercing the wall. Kingpin and several operatives had forced their way into the control room. Spider sense prickled through all the younger spiders at once. Oh no, danger, Gwen cursed. She shot a web to the wall and another behind Leon, intending to pull him and little Peter to safety. Leon stepped out and shot into the air, dodging the web. You can fly too? Gwen asked, surprised as she pulled her mask down. Isn't flight normal for a mage? Leon shrugged. But you're not on a broomstick. Gwen fired a web and swung toward the control room. Take little Peter and hide. Shadow Spider-Man followed. Spider-Ham slapped Deadpool's face. Hey, the bad guys are here. Get up! Deadpool stuck out his cheek and pointed at it with a dazed grin. Kiss here. If I don't get a hot, passionate kiss, I'll be too rusty to stand up. You deserve to die, Spider-Ham muttered and dropped Deadpool to the floor. Deadpool immediately began rolling and flailing. A kiss. Just one kiss. Your Mjolnir turned my brain into tofu. Spider-Ham walked a few steps away, sighed, then turned back. He grabbed one of Deadpool's feet and ran up the wall, slamming it. Deadpool swung and thudded his head against the wall several times, then suddenly yanked a katana from his back and stabbed it into the wall, using it to catch Spider-Ham and stop him. A kiss, Deadpool demanded, jabbing a finger at his cheek. You. He trailed off as Spider-Ham automatically self-censored. Leon, watching, thought Spider-Ham was finally understanding why the 616 Spider-Man got so annoyed with Deadpool. I'll do it, Leon said, flying over. He leveled a finger at Deadpool and whispered the spell, Vera Verto, Deformation Curse. The magic beam hit Deadpool, and with a soft twist in the air, he shrank and changed into a scruffy little dog. Spider-Ham held the mutt up by the hind legs. He turned into a dog? Still say you're not from Hogwarts. The little dog squinted and complained in a garbled bark. Oh man, this has to be the ugliest dog in the world. Looks like a lawn sprayed with weed killer. Spider-Ham shrugged, but at least he's less annoying now. Thanks. He slung Dog Deadpool over his shoulder and barreled toward the control room. The dog looked bewildered, stuck out a ridiculous tongue, and began licking Spider-Ham vigorously. What is this? So wet! Don't lick me! If you're going to be a dog, why is your tongue so long? Spider-Ham shouted as they ran. The fight with Kingpin began suddenly and ended quickly. Kingpin had stormed back to his restored lab with 3 heavy hitters, Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and Scorpion, expecting to take it back. What he found instead was 10 Spider-Men and a dog. Deadpool, despite being a mutt, was petty enough to hold on to his grudge against Kingpin for making another Vanessa his wife. He clamped a small knife in his mouth and darted forward now and then to jab at Kingpin. The Spider-Men overwhelmed the villains in minutes. They tied the 4 of them, Kingpin included, to the wall with webbing, then activated the particle collider and began to leave. Dog Deadpool slipped away from the group, knife still clenched, and quietly slit the throats of the 4 villains one by one. When he was done, he spat the little blade out and barked triumphantly. An obscene, garbled string of barks that translated into at least 10 censored words. Before he could finish his tirade, Leon swooped down and grabbed the mutt by the scruff. They all headed into the collider's enormous oval chamber. The little spiders were perched upside down on the ceiling around a central data access port. Below them, the collider pulsed with the energy of the colliding stream. Spider-Man, 616, slid the overload key into the port. I'm reversing the collider's operating mechanism. The gateway's open, he called. Goodbye, everyone. It was great to meet you. He looked around, clearly moved. I never imagined I had so many partners. I hope we meet again. There will be another chance. 616 Spider-Man waved. To avoid any accidents, I'll go first. Goodbye, everyone. You're all awesome. He leaned back and dove into the particle stream. With a crackle, he slipped through the universe and went home. Shadow Spider-Man doffed his hat and bowed. "Love you all," he said. One by one, the little spiders vanished. Spider-Ham, middle-aged Spider, Penny Parker, Garfield Spider followed Penny, then slapping hands with Toby Spider and Holland Spider. "Last time I said goodbye, I didn't think we'd get together so soon," Garfield said. "Maybe if I go home and sleep, I'll see you two again tomorrow." As farewells were being said, Leon held little Peter in his left hand and with his right, gently tossed Dog Deadpool into the particle stream. "Bye-bye, Deadpool. I still don't know which universe you're from, but you make me never want to meet you again." Dog Deadpool flailed his paws in midair, belly up. "He looks reluctant," Leon said, raising an eyebrow. "Maybe he's worried about staying a dog." Gwen pointed anxiously. "Aren't you going to change him back, Leon? He'll be a dog forever if he goes home like that." "It's not that bad. I didn't use much magic. He'll be back to human in 10 days, 2 weeks at most," Leon replied. "Besides, he seems to be enjoying it." Leon frowned, then waved a quick counterward and dispelled the deformation curse. "Fine. Change him back. I don't want Vanessa finding him pathetic and taking him back." Gwen stared at him, mouth twitching. "Are you a demon? If you were in my world, you'd be a supervillain." As Deadpool fell through the stream, his body shifted, fur receding, limbs reshaping, and he snapped back into human form. He flipped Leon the finger and shouted, "Fuck you, Harry Potter, why'd you change me back?" "I just found a new meaning in life," Deadpool whined. "I was so close to making my adorable dog Deadpool's sword stand up again." Gwen and the other spiders were speechless. "This pervert." Holland Spider's cheek twitched. "Good thing there's no one like him in my world." "Not in mine either," another murmured. Suddenly, Toby Spider stiffened. The little spider's spider sense exploded. Every one of them went deadly serious. Just as Deadpool was about to plunge completely into the particle stream, a wave of energy radiated out of the collider, punching through the universe barrier, and a hand shot out and snatched Deadpool by the neck. "Humph, you're all very nimble. I like nimble Spider-Men." A tear in space ripped through the high-energy particle stream. A blood-streaked leather shoe stepped out first. The man in the shoe wore a tailcoat and gripped Deadpool's throat as he dropped through the air. Before he hit, he hurled Deadpool onto the ground and planted his foot down like a boot on a doormat, smashing him into rubble. The portal and particle stream collided behind him with an explosive roar. The newly repaired collider shuddered under the blast. Under the newcomer's foot, Deadpool was a ruined mess. Bones splintered, organs crushed and torn, blood and gore everywhere. He tried to scream a curse, but the leather shoe pressed down hard against his chest. In an instant, Deadpool's life force poured into the newcomer like a flood. "This one tastes dreadful." The newcomer wiped his mouth, spat a mouthful of bloody foam, and scowled. His long hair was swept back, wild, framing fierce cheekbones. His eyes were a red, hungry glint as he scanned the gathered Spider-Men. Sigh. He spread his arms and inhaled the dust-choked air. What a glorious flavor. 616 Spider-Man really picked a good route for me. He grinned, speaking to himself. He led me here through the spatial passage, and the Weaver Master pinpointed this world for me. I even brushed past him. But I didn't expect an unfamiliar multiverse. A multiverse made only of Spider-Men. He drank in the scent of them like a starving beast, licking the corner of his mouth. "This is perfect. Spider-Men, remember my name, Morlun. From now on, you're all my food." The Spider-Men stiffened. The pressure the newcomer radiated felt like a mountain bearing down on them, like mice facing a cat, rabbits facing a hawk. "He's Morlun," Garfield Spider breathed, cold sweat breaking out on his brow. They finally understood why the man who could make 616 nervous was so feared. If they could run, some of them wanted to turn and flee. But there was no choice. "We have to send him back to his home universe, or keep him here forever," Toby Spider said in a voice like gravel. "This villain isn't like the others, Peter. I've fought a lot of enemies. Some can be saved, some are beyond redemption." "This one is born a demon," Garfield nodded. "He came here because of us. We can't let him leave. He'll destroy a world full of Spider-Men." Holland Spider stared at Morlun, breathing fast, then gave a sharp nod. The motion of someone whose body is flooded with adrenaline, certain he's teetering at the edge of a cliff. "But what are we supposed to do?" one of them muttered. "My heart's racing like I just ran a marathon." The Spider-Man of that world clung to the ceiling, poised to strike. Gwen moved to Liang's side. "Move! Take little Peter and go," she whispered urgently, lips pressed tight. "That guy is wrong. Dangerous." "Wrong?" Liang's supervision sliced through Morland's form. He saw that Morland's DNA was patterned with totemic lines, bloodlines Liang had not yet encountered, different from any of the spider variants they'd met today. He already carried the blood of those Spider-Men, but in his inner world, Heguang Liang licked his lips. The stranger the gene, the less it overlapped with what he'd absorbed, the more it might push his clone to evolve. Gwen couldn't hear that inner thought. She only saw Morland and nodded hard. "I've never felt anything like this. He's trouble. We can't let little Peter be in danger. Go!" Morland smiled. "You aren't running? Good. I wondered how many Peters are in this place. I like Peter Parker best. Of all the Spider-Men I've eaten, his flesh has the best texture." He spoke of past meals with the casual air of someone choosing what kind of bread to buy. The casualness made every Spider-Man's skin crawl. The pressure on their chests doubled as if a stone had been laid on each heart. And then Deadpool, flattened under Morland's boot, moved. Ever the surprise machine, he slowly raised a trembling right hand and patted Morland's pant leg, then gave a thumbs up. "I agree. Peter's taste is the best." Then, with a flourish, he flipped his thumb, pulled out a miniature adamantium dagger, and in an instant plunged it into Morland's crotch. "But only can eat Peter!" There was a sickening squelch. Morland howled and bent double. Deadpool kept fighting, fingers twisting as he prepared to saw at the blade lodged inside. A bestial roar ripped from Morland. He slammed his left foot down like a sledgehammer, driving it through Deadpool's chest. "Bastard!" he bellowed, wrenching the dagger free in a shower of blood and madly drawing Deadpool's life essence through the contact point. Deadpool's skin withered as if struck by a mummifying curse. Muscle dried, flesh tightened, and in a heartbeat he was little more than a gaunt skeleton. "Deadpool!" the Spider-Men cried. Even with Deadpool's legendary regeneration, there had to be limits. If Morland finished draining him, Deadpool might actually die. Holland Spider, who'd been the most vocal about Deadpool's antics, was the first to swing toward Morland in a blur of webbing. Tobey and Garfield followed. Spider-Men attacked from every angle in their own styles. Liang, about to join, put a hand up and stopped. "They really do like Deadpool, don't they? Fine. Let's give Morland 2 more minutes." Tears tracked down what was left of Deadpool's mask as he painfully lifted a bony hand toward the Spider-Men, instantly slipping into tragic actor mode. Peter, I knew you'd come to save me." "You idiot. There's not just one Peter here." Gwen landed first, delivering a brutal kick to Morland. "Deadpool, which Peter are you talking about?" Holland fired a web ball at Morland's eyes. The Spider-Man of this world shot out precise rings of webbing to entangle him. "Isn't it me?" Garfield called, flipping through the air and whipping a heel at Morland's skull. "Deadpool's talking about everyone, right?" Tobey used 2 webs to snatch Deadpool's samurai swords free and swung them toward Morland. The battlefield erupted as the Spider-Men closed in, each strike a desperate gamble against a predator who'd just announced they were dinner.